Friends, fans, and fine folk, grab your drinks and snacks and come on down to this charisma check. Check this out, everybody, before I forget. Merchandise. Cool, innit? It's pretty cool, innit? This is the Death Planes merchandise. This is the latest of the anniversary merch, available just for 2025. It will be available for about another week and then it's gone. And the only way to get it from then on is to be a patron a year from now when it comes back during anniversary times. So if you haven't got it now, you won't be able to get it for another year. So do the thing and check the links and do the stuff. How's it going? How's everybody feeling? Who's in the chat? Ms. Blue the Great's in. Let me just shift my camera back so you can see me a little better. Ms. Blue the Great's here and Keyboard Smashed, and Calamire's here. Tina's here, what up? Fancy's here. Keyboard Smashed. Just finished listening to the Choose Your Own Adventure book that was done in January. Oh my goodness, couldn't stop laughing. That was fun, wasn't it? That was a Dragon's Den one, wasn't it? The dirty one. The filthy smut book. I've got another Choose Your Own Adventure coming up on Wednesday morning. I was thinking whether to do it Tuesday, Wednesday, but we might be going to Oxford on Tuesday for a day trip, which is quite nice. I haven't been in Oxford for a while, but the fun thing about Oxford is there is a board game cafe there called The Thirsty Meeple, and that's kind of the origin story of me being a D&D nerd. I visited a friend in Oxford and she said, hey, let me take you to a board game cafe, and I was like, hey, I like board games, sure. And that kind of one thing after another led me to being a D&D guy. So while we're in Oxford, we're going to go to Thirsty Meeple and be like, hey, here's where it began. So ages ago, but the scene's a meme, so it stays in my head. What scene? Matilda's here, what up? Utabak is here as well. I need to explore more of Rob's content. Varies a lot. I am, yeah. I consider myself a Dungeons and Dragons variety streamer. So like I do things, varied things, somewhat tangentially related to Dungeons and Dragons. Cereal for dinner because I'm a grown-up. Nice. My brother is cooking dinner at the moment, and he says he'll just leave me some in the pan for after I'm done streaming. Something with chicken in it by the sounds of it.
This is your share of the loot.
Oh, is somebody buying merch perhaps? Yeah, somebody's buying a t-shirt from the shopkeeper. That's why we plug merchandise. Thank you very much to all the people who have bought it. I hope it's really good. I hope you enjoy it. I quite like it. I'm quite a fan of the Fourth Wall merchandise. It seems to be pretty good quality. And I really like the artwork that we got commissioned for this year with the Death Planes. The artist was very good at getting what I wanted and taking advice on the little changes and stuff. And we've managed to sell enough merchandise to pay what we paid for of the artist, so that wasn't good English. We've managed to make enough profit from the sale of the merch to cover the cost of commissioning the merch. Not much more, but at least we're not out of pocket, so that's good. Dragon's Den was wild. Watched it again. Gets better with every time. Winter Ghost's here. How's it going? Best Robert Reads ever. Well, best Robert Reads yet. Currently playing BG3. Nice. How far through it are you? I think the best part was watching Rob try really hard to keep a straight face and start giggling anyway. Sup, Richard Bennett? Welcome in. First one you've been to in a while. Yeah. Sent me 4 Choose Your Own Adventure books, but I don't think they'll be top Dragon's Den. We'll see, won't we? I mean, Dick and Glory wrote a lot of those Choose Your Own Adventures, and I've been sent quite a few of them now, so we shall see. I'll make time to do more Robert Reads over the next few weeks, I suppose, or a few months, and we'll try and make our way through the Richard Bloomfield or something, was it? Richard, whatever his name was. We'll work through more of his books, see if they're all as filled with innuendo. Maybe been inspired to get a few choose your own adventure books myself. They're pretty fun, huh? I don't think you're meant to read them like I do, where you like keep going back like a branching path and try and explore every single possible option. It's a pretty obsessive, completionist kind of attitude towards choose your own adventure books. But how else are you meant to know you've got the best ending? I love mine. I wore it a few times already. Nice. I'm glad to hear it. I've had a haircut and trim. I did have a haircut. Yeah, I went to the. I should have asked my brother if he'd be cool with me showing you, but I'll just tell you instead. I went to the hairdressers the other day, and I went along with my brother because he has for 3 years been growing out his hair for the Princess Trust, which is a charity that takes donations of hair and money, obviously, but they take hair and they weave it into wigs, like real human hair wigs, and then they give them to little girls with cancer. So little girls who are losing their hair because of chemotherapy treatments and stuff. And they require it being like 12 inches long or something. And my brother's been growing it for 3 years and it really slowed down, but eventually it just got to 12 inches and he's like, this will be enough. And he went and had it all lopped off, and now he's a proper skinhead. And it's a very big difference. I took lots of videos and photos. It's very funny. But I just had a regular old cut, just a nice little trim up. I'm going to a wedding next week, so nice little trim up and shaved today to feel good. Michael asks, how cool? How do I get that merch myself? That's what they call a plant. I've got a mug that matches that shirt. Nice. You got the mug version? I reckon the mug looks really good in this. I haven't got one myself because I kind of thought about it. Fancy was like, should we get you like, do you want the what do they call it? Like the samples? Do you want a sample of the mug version of this particular merchandise? And I was like, I kind of do because it looks really good, but I don't drink hot drinks and I live alone, so like the mug would just take up space in my mug cupboard, and I've already got more mugs than I need. And so I opted for a t-shirt, which I might actually wear. But I reckon because it's a nice like panorama, it's a nice landscape. It wraps all the way around the mug, and I reckon it would look really nice on a mug. Jacqueline Piper, newbie here. Hi from Yorkshire. Are you also in Yorkshire? Which part of Yorkshire are you in, Jacqueline, without doxing yourself? I'm in York currently, staying with my brother. Damn it, I'm going to Oxford on Thursday for work. Totally could have gone Tuesday if you'd have said. I didn't know. Didn't know until I think today or yesterday when they started throwing the plans around and saying like maybe this, maybe that. Definitely don't remember a board game cafe in Oxford when I lived there. It's called the Thirsty Meeple. God, I hope it's still open. You got me worried now. It would have been 2014 when I went. I guess it would have been 2014. No, 2015. I was here briefly over Christmas. 2015. I think it might have been then. Let me open up Google Maps and assure myself that it's still here. Thirsty Meeple, Oxford. Yep, it's still there and currently open. Thirsty Meeples, and it is. Let's see. It's open every day from about 10 or 11 in the morning till about 10 or 11 at night. So, yep, still there. We'll visit it on Tuesday. I'll have to do a VOD on that one. It's scheduled for 5 AM my time. Which one is it? Which one's scheduled for that time? All the echo. There's an echo in the room? Is it? Are you meaning some topics are echoing in the chat, or do you mean it literally there's an echo in the room? Because there shouldn't be an echo in the room. I've got a big old blanket up behind me, and there's shelves filled with clothing. I suppose that wall that I'm looking at is a bit big and flat, and I suppose that could be echoing. Nothing like that up here. It makes me sad. No board game cafes at all in Alaska. Surely there would be. There's board game cafes all over the world. Also, be the change you want to see in the world, right? Open up a cafe, put some board games in the corner. Bingo bango. I like the little Robert Hat logo on the back. It's so cute. I saw that today on this one when it came out of the wash, and I was folding it, and I saw the little Robert Hatley logo, and I was like, yeah, it looks good. When Fancy and I were designing it, and I was like, do we want a Robert Hatley logo on it? We thought about putting it on the sleeve, and I was like, I feel like it could work on the sleeve if the options for it were a little bit better on the Fourth Wall merch store. But as it was, it would have been pretty high on the sleeve. It wouldn't have been right down on the cuff. It would have been like halfway up, and I was like, that doesn't look right. So we tried it on the back and said, hopefully that looks good. And I think it does. I think it's a nice little subtle thing, so that if you're, in a Starbucks queue or whatever, and somebody behind you recognizes the logo, they might be like, hey, Robert Harley. That's pretty cool. Doop-doop-doo. Our local hobby shop just closed down. That sucks. Just not enough business. What is the Death Plains? And yay for being in black. The Death Plains is just an area of my world, specifically on the island of Drenwheel, in the Kingdom of Serenteel Islands, and it's an area where there has previously been a very powerful volcanic eruption many years ago, and it left the world charred and dead. And not only that, but the lava weakened the plane boundaries between the material plane and the plane of fire, and so fire elementals and firestorms and red dragons and shit started coming through, and so it's a very inhospitable part of the world, hence Death Plains. Yay for being able to pay your artists. Yes, exactly right. That's a big thing for me. I would never expect artists to just work for free. What book are you reading next week? I don't know, actually. I've got a selection to choose from. I'll probably just start the stream and put it to the chat which one people like the look of best. We used a local NZ artist. We did, yeah. A friend of mine, Spidey NZ, is an animator. Works for an animation studio called Muck Putty, and he knows a whole bunch of artists, obviously, other animators, illustrators, what have you. And he gave me a list of suggestions, and we went down them, went through their portfolios a bit, and found one that we liked the look of. High quality and illustrations are beautiful. Brightfield, that's what it was. Dick Brightfield, Richard Brightfield. So now from here on it's all profit. Yeah, exactly. Every time you buy some merch now, profit. Question for you. I've been toying with the idea of a TTRPG murder mystery where one of the players is the killer but doesn't know it yet. Have you done anything like that? That sounds familiar. So either I don't think I've done it. Has somebody asked me about it, or have I seen it done? Let me think. What was familiar about that question? There's something that maybe you asked me something about this before, because I don't feel like it was that long ago. It might have been during the sort of ideas phase with Dice Goblin. So Dice Goblin are my dice sponsor. When you're doing a Private Sanctum game with me, one of the things you get from that, your little swag bag, is a free set of dice from my dice sponsor Dice Goblin. They are doing they've just finished a third Kickstarter for their next set of dice, and it's all like monster themed, Monster Mash sort of thing. So they've got like vampire dice and headless horseman dice and mummy and zombie and all this stuff. And for that they wanted a tie-in one shot, and one of the stretch goals of the Kickstarter was that I was going to help them write this one shot, and then even run a game of it. So at some point later this year, keep your eyes out for that. So during fulfillment, I'll be running this one shot, and during the early stages of the bouncing ideas back and forth regarding what this one shot was going to be, I think one of the things leveled was like, oh, maybe what if one of the players is the culprit and they don't know it, and it's kind of like a Cluedo-ish situation where you shuffle cards or something, and you assign which one's which, but everybody there has a means, a motive, an opportunity to have done it, and then you just kind of have to work out by process of elimination which one couldn't have done it for whatever reason, or wouldn't have, or didn't, or whatever. But everybody knows that going into it, so they know that they have to play it as if maybe they did it, and they're either lying or not lying, and they don't necessarily know. So how would you go about doing it? I suppose there's two. The first question I would say to ask is, do they know that that's the premise or not? What are the pros and cons of the players know that they might be the suspect? You might say that, like, the big twist reveal. I just suddenly lost my train of thought because I suddenly remembered another instance of this. Phoenix Cross. I'll remind me to come back to Phoenix if I haven't. So one of the benefits of not telling them might be like, oh, the twist might be a bit more exciting for them if they are led to believe that, if they don't realise going into it that that's kind of the premise of it, and then they find out at the end that they actually are the culprit. But I would argue kind of the opposite. I feel like managing expectations wise, not everybody's going to enjoy that sort of a twist. It could feel like removing player agency, that they didn't sign up to play a murderer, and then at the end you said, oh, you're actually a murderer. And not everybody's going to like that. It could also, if not done well, kind of feel like a cop-out of like, I just put in all this work to investigate a murder scene that I did. Why would I have investigated that? Why have I just... it's kind of I don't know. So I would, having not thought about it much, but thought about it just a little just now, I would err on the side of it's probably going to work out better if you go in with the premise outlined, that it's going to be obvious to them that, hey, one of you might be the murderer, even if it's maybe it's one of you four, or maybe it's an NPC, rather than it's definitely one of you four. So that everybody kind of signs up for understanding that they might actually be a murderer. And if you're doing it that way, then having a D&D character sheet, but I feel like this might be one of the instances where it calls for the DM to have all of the sheets and not you. Some DMs just kind of run like that way anyway. Everything's behind the DM screen, and you just roll the dice and tell me the number on it. I got a 17. Cool. 17 plus your modifier. Cool. That's not enough to hit, and you don't necessarily know what your modifier is or how much the armor class was, and it prevents a lot of the metagaming, but it also feels like it's removing a lot of the fun of playing the game. But I think in this instance it could work, because you don't necessarily know if somebody asks you something about your alibi. If you don't know you're a murderer, but you suspect you might be, you don't necessarily know whether you're going to be rolling a persuasion or a deception check to tell them the truth as you think of the truth. And so maybe the DM doesn't need all of your character sheets behind the screen, but they need if in situations like that where they know you're lying but you don't, they might just ask you to roll a check, just roll a dice, and then, or maybe, what's your deception modifier and what's your persuasion modifier? Cool. Roll the dice. You don't know which one I'm going to add, but I'm just going to tell you without saying one way or another. I'm going to tell you that failed or that succeeded or whatever. That could work. And then the mechanics of it would be... Yeah, I feel like the mechanics of it has to be that everybody is set up to have some sort of kind of... I've never actually seen it, but it's so popular in pop culture, isn't it, that the Murder on the Orient Express has kind of seeped into the zeitgeist. And I think it's kind of that way isn't the reveal at the end of that murder mystery that everybody was in on it, or everybody had a hand in it, and they all conspired together to kill him, or that everybody thought they'd killed him, but everybody just, like, some person poisoned his tea and then left and thought that they were responsible, but the tea was actually spilled, and somebody else somebody else stabbed him and then ran away, but he didn't die of his stab wound. Somebody else actually strangled him. Isn't it something like that? I'm not sure. But you could have the murder mystery kind of be like that, so everybody goes in thinking they are the murderer, which does tie me back to the point I was going to say about Phoenix Cross. So she, you all know Phoenix. Phoenix is, one of the players of Tales of the Misfits. She got super into D&D after Tales of the Misfits. Well, during Tales of the Misfits, she like took to it in a major way. And she started her own channel. She started playing D&D with her flatmates, I think it was, and ran like a D&D actual play on Twitch that she really enjoyed. It was just 3 players and a DM. She wasn't DMing, she was one of the 3 players. And it was a murder mystery of sorts. And it ran for, I don't know, a few hours or something. I think it was just a one-shot. And at the end of it, the reveal was that that each of the 3 players, the DM had privately told them that, okay, you're going to be doing a murder mystery and you're going to be investigating all these NPCs, but the twist is going to be that you were actually the murderer. And so he let them in on a secret that they were the murderer, but they didn't know that all 3 of them had been told the same thing. And so they kind of worked that out as it went, and then there was like this big twig reveal moment when they all realised, did you kill him as well? And it was a great little twist. I think that was a well done. So it can be done. To answer your question, Calamine, there'd be a lot more to think about, a lot of mechanics involved in thinking about how that's going to work and how it's going to be pulled off successfully. If you end up going ahead with it, best of luck. Sounds like a lot of work, but it sounds like it could be really rewarding. I've googled Thirsty Meeples, was definitely, and then my chat just jumped. Don't know why my chat jumps. Also, I changed it from top chat. I changed it to live chat, and then it's changed back to top chat somehow. Google Thirsty Meeples was definitely not there when I was at college. I know a few people have donated hair to the Princess Trust. It's a lovely charity. Adam was telling me that they kind of are calling out for money more than hair, because so many people are donating hair because it's easy to do. And if you're a woman with really long hair, or I suppose anyone with really long hair, and you're thinking of a change, and you think you're going to go short with it for the first time in like 10 years, then it literally costs you nothing to just be like, tie it up before we cut it off and then send it in. Costs you maybe some postage, but every wig costs the Thirsty Meeples. Every wig costs the Princess Trust like £700 or something to make, because they have to hire somebody for hours and hours and hours to meticulously, like, individually thread human hair into a wig. So apparently they've got hair that they're just kind of sitting on, waiting to have the money to actually turn them into wigs. So whenever you are going to be donating your hair, they also encourage you to do like a fundraiser to also raise the £700 to turn your hair into a wig as well. D&D question. I have a character that's designed around using detect thoughts to understand what people want, and then use things like Phantasmal Force or Alter Self to trick them. Is that viable? 100%. Yeah, you need to kind of work with your GM on that in advance, because there's a bit of a buy-in there. With anything to do with illusion or charming NPCs and making them do your will, there is an element of the illusionist could be the best class in the game or the worst class in the game, depending on how imaginative the DM allows you to be and how much you push the rules of how much the spell can do and stuff. And I feel like this kind of falls into a similar category of detect thoughts allows you to find their surface thoughts, and if you try to dig deeper into their psyche, which I would probably argue is where their deepest desires and what is actually driving them in life, that would sit in the deeper part of the psyche, not the surface thoughts. And if you are doing that with detect thoughts, then every time you do it, that the target is going to know that you're probing into its mind, because whether they succeed or fail the save by nature of the spell, unless it's changed in 5.5, which it might have, but I don't think it has. Let me just double check that so I'm not giving bad advice. What is happening? Have I got a greasy screen or something? Recognise my finger, please. Let me just double check that it's still the same in 2024 rules. Listings, spells, detect thoughts, detect thoughts. You activate one of the effects below. Oh, interesting. So already it's different. Until the spell ends, you can activate either effect as a magic action on later turns. Sense thoughts. You sense the presence of thoughts within 30 feet of yourself that belong to creatures you know languages that know languages or are telepathic. You don't read the thoughts, but you know that a thinking creature is present. So detect thoughts, you just go, oh, there are thinking creatures around me. You sense the presence of thoughts. You know that a thinking creature is present within 30 feet. It's a little bit ambiguous as to whether you pinpoint their place, like is the point of that use of the spell to be able to go, I know exactly where you are because I can hear you thinking. Or is it just like you enter a room and go, oh, there is something in this room that can think? Because if the latter, then that would kind of be made useless by being within 30 feet of any of your allies. Anyway, the second part of that is read thoughts. Target one creature you can see within 30 feet of yourself, or one creature within 30 feet of yourself that you have detected with the sense thoughts option. You learn what's most on the target's mind right now. If the target doesn't know any languages and isn't telepathic, you learn nothing. As a magic action on your next turn, you can try to probe deeper into the target's mind. If you probe deeper, the target makes a wisdom saving throw. So let me just check this. Casting time 1 action, concentration up to a minute. So you cast it as an action. You activate one of the. Okay, so you do get it as part of the action of casting it. You do also get that, because I was like, I thought for a second it was going to say that it takes an action to cast it, and then you on a later turn you can read the surface thoughts, and then on the next turn you can probe deeper. But not quite. You can still use it on the first turn that you cast it. You can probe deeper into the target's mind. If you probe deeper, the target makes a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, you discern the target's reasoning, emotions, and something that looms large in its mind, such as a worry, a love, or a hate. On a successful save, the spell ends. Either way, the target knows that you are probing into its mind, and until you shift your attention away from the target's mind, the target can take an action on its turn to make an intelligence arcana check against your spell save DC, ending the spell in a success. So it can try and force you out of its mind. Weird that it's an intelligence arcana check, but whatever. So that part of it hasn't changed. So basically, I would say that if you were making a character designed around using detect thoughts to understand what people want, and then using things like phantasmal force to trick them, it would be most viable if you could do so reliably with probing into their thoughts. So if you wanted to make that character, I would probably work with you as your dungeon master. I would probably work with you to homebrew something. Maybe you've got an item, or maybe you've just got a feature that, like, instead, in lieu of taking a feat, maybe I would homebrew a feat for you that allows you to cast detect thoughts without them knowing that you're probing into their mind or something. But however you get around that obstacle, I would say that once you have the deepest desires, doing any sort of illusion or anything, I'd probably give you advantage on. I'd probably it'd probably just be as simple as giving them disadvantage on a save against anything that happens, or giving you advantage on it, or maybe I would even go as far as like making a mechanic so that it's like if you have only read their surface thoughts, you get a +1, or they get a -1. If you've delved deeper and succeeded, then you have advantage or disadvantage as appropriate. And if you've cast it on them multiple times, then you get to auto attack, or they get to auto save, auto fail, or something. But yeah, cool idea for a character, a manipulator who uses mind reading. Okay, thank you. Thirsty Meeples opened in 2012, just before I left Oxford. Okay. Don't know if you can have too many mugs. You can if you don't use mugs at all. and you live in a very small house with very limited storage space. I used to donate my hair every 2 years. 9 inches grows fast. Nice. The Princess Trust say that they encourage you to grow until you've got at least 12 inches to donate, and they can't accept less than 7 inches. So I guess that's your window for them. Could always get rid of one of my other mugs. I could. Just feels wasteful. Why do I need a new mug if I aren't even using the ones that I've got? And why would I get rid of a mug just to get another one? Double check they aren't going to the UK Games Expo. I mean, not on Tuesday, right? They're not going to be closed on Tuesday because they're going to an expo 4 days later. I love the bag especially for the usefulness. I have 2 of your mugs and mini shirts already. Nice. Speaking of Yorkshire, how are your private sanctums? Fine, from my perspective. Very good from the players' perspective. They said they enjoyed it. I think I was just a bit harsh on myself about them. I don't think I did a fantastic job with either of them. I think I did better with the second one, perhaps. I felt more confident about the job that I'd done. I think they were both okay, but I don't know. I'm harsh on myself. I could have done a better job. It's echo on the alerts. Stand down. Gotcha. Man, I'm behind the chat. I can't really do anything about the echo on the alerts either because I don't have. Do I have anything else? No, this is the only thing I've got open, so it shouldn't have had an echo on the alerts. But whatever, doesn't matter. There's not a lot of alerts coming in. Any tips for a new D&D player making a first character? Leaning towards Elven Ranger, but I'll be starting at level 6 and joining halfway through a campaign. If you're brand new to D&D entirely and you're jumping in with a level 6 character, I'd say that Ranger's not too bad of an option. It's not a hugely complicated character choice. There's quite a bit you can do with it. I don't know, Jacqueline, whether you're I don't know you obviously, so I don't know whether you're somebody who picks up on rules well, or whether you struggle with complicated rules for games. I don't know if you've been watching D&D and you feel like you know how to play, even though you haven't played. So forgive me if I'm patronising, but I will say that the easiest class for a brand new person to D&D to pick up is usually fighter or barbarian. The hardest ones are usually like wizard, sorcerer, artificers. Ranger I would put at a little bit north of midway, a little bit harder than average maybe, because they are a half casting class, so they do have spell casting, and so any class that spell casts, obviously now you've got the added problems of having to know how to calculate your spell attack modifier and your DC, how to track spell slots, when spell slots return, and how to get them back and stuff. Ranger's not too bad for it because as a half-caster they don't have access to a lot of spells, they don't get cantrips as standard, and they don't get that many spell slots and stuff, so their spells are usually just, I cast this thing as a bonus action to give me more damage when I attack with my bow. Tips in regard to just general tips for it, Elven Ranger's a very nice choice to go for. I would just say as well, like, just play whatever you want to play. Like, come in with an idea for a character that you want to play. It doesn't have to be a straight up lift of another character that exists in media. You don't need to come in and be like, I want to play Batman. But if that is your in, then that's also great. You could come in with a character that you like. Oh, I really love this character concept from One Punch Man or whatever. The bad guy in season 2, blah blah blah, and I really want to play something like that. And your DM will probably help work out what sort of a character you want to play and what's how to make a character like that. Biggest tip I'd say is, Jacqueline, is just like good communication is key to a good game of D&D. Like, before the game starts and during the game, if anything is confusing or making you feel uncomfortable, or if you're worried about anything at all, and just raise it. Just don't be afraid to talk to the DM and talk to the players. Also, Here's a tip more specific to your circumstances. Because you're joining halfway through a campaign, the other players are most likely established with the DM and the story and everything, and you're going to feel like you are lesser in the hierarchy of the situation. And a good tip for you, I would say, is to remind yourself that you, at the day that you are sitting at the table, you are as important as everybody else as everybody else at the table. Your enjoyment is as important as everybody else's enjoyment at the table, including the DM. You are not lesser than anybody else. Your needs do not need to be put aside in favour of the things that other people at that game need. You have been invited to the game as an equal with all those other people, and so just keep that in mind and just be like, hey, I don't know if I'm not having fun because it's going too fast and I can't understand it, or because you're all making off-color jokes about whatever it is, and I don't really like that sort of thing. But feel free to speak up and say, like, can we move past this, or can we go back and explain why that failed because I thought I rolled well enough, or blah blah blah. Hopefully that helps. We have no more local hobby shops. If I want anything, I have to buy it online. Man, that sucks. Got some game shops near me, but most of the game cafes are several hours away. Damn. How's visiting the UK been? Pretty good so far. Like, I was pretty tired for several days after arriving because of the jet lag, and also from not feeling like I was fully rested from the April madness. The crazy back-to-back D&D campaign that I ran with Vivo really took it out of me for several days, over a week. So I was kind of just recovering from a lot of that, but I've spent a lot of time with family. I spent some time with my nibblings. My nephew picked him up from school, and my nephew's birthday, 10th birthday, was weekend before last. Went round we went go-karting, and then we went for a barbecue, and then I bought him some D&D stuff. I'm going to be taking him Saturday tomorrow, isn't it? I'm taking him tomorrow to visit a gaming store in the morning to buy some paint, because I bought him his first custom-made mini from Hero Forge, and it'll be arriving in a few weeks' time after I've left. So I'm going to go buy him some paints so that he can paint it up when it arrives. Went round. I took my granddad out for a day trip in the Yorkshire Dales, which was really nice, and then I went round his again today just to sort of say my goodbyes in case it's the last time I see him. I've been spending time with my brothers a lot. One of them, unfortunately, had to take a job in Paris the last week, so I haven't seen much of him, but oh well. Needs to support his family, even if it means going to Paris. Somebody's robbing a car. And the weather's been pretty good as well while I've been here, actually. It's been a little chilly, especially coming from Perth summer. It's felt particularly chilly, but it's been okay. Can't wait for Cartographer to start up again, to visit the Death Plains. Yeah, it's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it. I'm not itching for it to be next week or anything. I certainly don't feel like prepared to do it, but I'm looking forward to being prepared to do it. I'm looking forward to getting back to New Zealand, getting back into a routine and having some time to prep it. I've been missing sort of some just like general world building kind of stuff lately. I don't think I'll do it I was thinking, maybe I'll do a world building stream, but I don't like the idea of everything having to be like anytime I want to do something, my instinct these days is going, I could do a stream about that, and so I end up not doing it. Like reading, if I just want to read something. Like I got the DMG and the monster manual for 5.5, and I haven't opened them yet because I was like, I can do those as Robert reads after I finish the PHB. But everything ends up being put off, or I don't have time to stream, and so that I just never do it. And world building streams and video games and stuff as well. I don't really. So I think I'll just try and get more in the habit of going, I feel like doing some world building, I'll just do it and not make content out of it. It will eventually become content because it's world building. It'll come up in one of my games sometime. But for prep for my Private Sanctum games, there was a lot of Feywild influence in both games, actually. We didn't really get to it in the first game, which is one of the reasons I was a bit disappointed with how I did. I feel like I didn't do a good enough job of like pacing it out correctly and getting them to the Feywild sooner so that we could explore some of that Fey influence. But whatever, water under the bridge now. But in preparation for the Private Sanctum games, where there was this Fey influence, I was reminded of some of the bigger behind-the-scenes plot shit that's been going on with my Archfey, like all undermining each other and double-crossing and like layers upon layers of deception and stuff. And I was like, I should really flesh out my Archfey a little bit more. So that's been interesting, and I think when I go to do some prep for Cartographer, it'll be nice to give myself the chance to do a little bit more world building as well. There might be one or two in Anchorage or Fairbanks or Juneau, but there are none on the peninsula. There isn't the population for it. Boomer. There's a lot of there might be Tina. There might be some pubs and cafes that are not board game cafes or board game shops, but they are pubs that have board games. I know that a lot of pubs are first and foremost cafes or pubs or restaurants or whatever, but they also happen to have shelves of a dozen or 24 board games or something, and they're like, oh, while you're eating your meal you can play a board game for free. So it might be that, like, if you're searching for gaming shops or board game cafes or whatever, it might be coming up blank, but there's always a chance that there might be some other businesses that just aren't marketing themselves as board game cafes. In Oxford, best nerd shop I found is Blackwell's, not the academic and music one, opposite side of the road where Broad Street gets fat. It's like 2 shops long, lots of books and merchandise. Merch and dice, not merchandise. Best nerd shop I've found is Blackwell's. Thank you for the suggestion, Locke, and I will look up Blackwell's in Oxford. Why is my phone a bit slow? Stop it. Thank you. Maps. Blackwell's, Oxford. Blackwell's bookshop. There's 2 different places in Google Maps. It comes up with 2 different places all the way across the city from each other called Blackwell's Bookshop, both of them. And then next door to Blackwell's Bookshop is Blackwell's Music Shop, and then across the road from that one is Blackwell's Sci-Fi Manga and Games. So I guess that's the one you're talking about. Blackwell's Manga, Sci-Fi and Games. If I drop a pin on that one, save it as a travel plan perhaps. There we go. And then if I look up Thirsty Meeples and see how far between those, maybe we can go between. If I drop a pin on that one too, travel plans. Thirsty Meeples. Well, it's not far from it at all. It's like a street and a half over. Nice, I'll go check out Blackwell's as well. Thank you, Lachlan. I just got the map I bought from you framed. It's hanging on the wall next to my artwork. I love it. It's beautiful. Thank you very much, Bettina. Which map was it? We've had 2 maps made now. Both of them are very beautiful. You get a Ben's cookie from the covered market and thank me later. Ben's cookie from the covered market. Covered market, Oxford. Covered market. Covered market. Oxford. Covered market. Save. Travel plans. Add a note. Get a Ben's cookie. Okie dokie. Good evening, Oris. How's it going? Finally managed to catch Charisma check again. It's been a while. Among Us, the TTRPG version? Yeah. Who done it? Hey, thanks again for the York Private Sanctum. I had a lot of fun, even if Mishandra lost 96% of her arm. It's been a lot of fun getting people from my home games now. Yeah, Katie was one of the players, and she was investigating a deconstructor, some evil artificer essentially had made, well, not necessarily evil, but whatever. They'd made this machine that was kind of like a pointer at something and disintegrate, to take it apart into its constituent parts. Like you could point it at water and it would split it into oxygen and hydrogen, for instance. And at the end, Katie got it pointed at her directly and rolled, and oh, yep, that's going to hit you. And how's it going to? And she's a monk with deflect missiles, and she's like, "Can I deflect any of it?" I was like, "It's a blasting ray from this." Deconstruction machine, but you can certainly put your hand in the way and choose to remove some of the damage from your deflect missiles, but there will be a cost. She's like, I understand. And I rolled very high, and we decided that her hand was just disintegrated. Which is going to be very interesting if that character comes back with with 4%. I then rolled a percentile check to see how much of her arm was destroyed, and I got 96 on the percentile die. I was like, ooh, this is going to be hard to make a prosthetic for. Particularly hard for a monk as well to lose all of the left arm. Around a murder mystery, not a TTRPG, in that there were 2 acts, one before and one after the murder. The murderer didn't know until after the murder occurred. Host DM chooses who the murderer is. Ooh, that's cool. Have you made a mini without an arm yet? There's a game like that with the cards, Rob. It's called There's Been a Murder. The game itself would be an absolute great setup for an RPG. Nice. Speaking of Kickstarter, I just placed a pledge to Deerstalkers. I also love their content. I haven't actually checked out their Kickstarter. I heard today that there was one, but I haven't actually checked it out yet. Love their content. Glad I learned about Nixie through the Misfits. Yeah, it was fun. That was cool that you were introduced to their content through that. It's kind of the whole purpose of that crossover was to get more people from each community to kind of look at each other's work. Probably just snap off the arm of the sand and neaten it up. Sounds very Jonathan Creek. Yes, it does actually. There was a lot of that sort of thing in Jonathan Creek, wasn't there? They're launching a campaign on the 25th. Yeah, Phoenix is coming up with actually. If you want to check out Phoenix's D&D campaign, it's called One Hit Wonders. One Hit Wonders. Only the one is spelled WON, as in like you won D&D. One Hit Wonders. If you check them out on YouTube and Instagram and stuff, they'll be posting their campaigns shortly. And she's very excited about it, but very nervous too. I also invited Phoenix to join me for Death Roulette this year at PAX Australia, and she is super keen and very flattered. I asked her, and she's like, "Oh my god, I love D&D." She's just delving deeper and deeper into this rabbit hole. Speaking of Misfits, notice there's no B2F with Brit's character online, should there be? Yeah, unfortunately Brit lives in Sydney, not Auckland, so arranging her between 2 ferns with Arrow was logistically more problematic than the others. So we haven't done it yet. We're probably going to at some point, but it'll be like out of time. It's like when Brit comes back for... I did ask them when Brit was over to do the D&D new campaign that we just did in April. I was like, since Brit's over, are we doing Between Two Ferns? And they're like, we're already cramming in all of this campaign into 2 weeks. There was just no time to also film that, which is a shame. So we haven't filmed one with Brit just because of logistics, and hopefully one day we will, but by the time the logistics kind of get out of the way and allow us to do so, it might be a bit too late. It might have kind of like lost the momentum and not needed to do it. I don't know. Really want to see Phoenix DM a game as well. Yeah, same. I'd love to play in a game that Phoenix DMs. Hopefully she'll run a game for me one day. Learn from the last Choose Your Own Adventure book to note the page of the last unexplored choice and create a branching map. So I'm ready for the next one. Thank you, Calamar. Hopefully you can make the one that we do on Wednesday then. One of my friends got sponsorship for lopping off their hair too. Yeah, smart. What if when you dig deep you're a changeling that has already become a fake person? Layers upon layers. I'd have to disappear soon, Nerdwitch says. My phone's at low battery, leaving work in 20 minutes. It's a race against the clock or the battery. That was probably a message from 20 minutes ago, the way that I do charisma checks, so you may have left already. Be careful who you donate your hair to. There was some companies in America that turned out to be fraudulent, just got free hair and charged for the wigs. Fucking hell. Assholes ruining it for people. Fraudulent company in America? Surely not. Non-D&D question. What were you planning on doing with your math degree? What career path were you thinking? I wasn't really. I didn't have a set idea. I didn't have a career in mind. I was coming towards the end of the degree thinking like, oh shit, what am I doing with this? I wasn't looking forward to the prospect of doing more study. Like I'd kind of, by the end of my bachelor, I was kind of like, I don't think I'm cut out to do this more than I already have. I was undiagnosed ADHD, at that time. Sidebar, really quick tangent, just finished my third autism assessment session of possibly 6 or more, so it's a long process, but we finally finished the RADS-R test. It's 80 questions, and if you get more than 65 points by the end of it, you're likely to be autistic. If you get more than 90 points by the end of it, it's highly likely you're autistic, and it's out of like a total of 200 and something. And when I finished the quiz, she says, you're at about 142. So it's not yet a diagnosis, but it's pretty likely I'm autistic, and also ADHD probably. And back when I was studying my maths degree, I didn't know that. And so I think I was struggling with studies a little bit. It was taking a lot out of me. I'd kind of lost a lot of wind for it, a lot of steam for it. It was disheartening to learn that I wasn't really as smart as I wanted to be when it came to like physics. I felt like I had to drop physics classes just because I wasn't really smart enough to understand them, which was a little upsetting. So my maths degree becoming like an applied mathematics degree was just a bit of a default of what was left after everything had fallen away, either because I wasn't interested in it or because I wasn't good at it. Applied mathematics was kind of all that was left. So I really enjoy maths and I am good at it, but the studying aspect, I wasn't sure what I could do with it. I just knew that a lot of companies, even companies you wouldn't necessarily expect to need it, a lot of companies would benefit from having somebody on the staff that understands applied mathematics. And so it was probably going to be a case of put my feelers out on like LinkedIn and stuff and just hope a job comes to me that I enjoy. I was going down the path of maths education, that's for sure, like research into maths education. I was a sort of a research assistant for my professor at university, Igor Kontorovich, I think his name was. Really great teacher, fantastic teacher, as you'd expect, because his career is literally maths education and research into maths education and how people best learn in maths education, and he practices what he preaches, and he's a fantastic teacher. And he saw a lot of promise in me, I guess, and asked me to join him for a lot of research stuff. And I went down to a maths convention down in Palmerston North, and I was probably just going to go down that avenue, end up studying maths education with him. But about the time, it kind of split into, do I commit to this maths thing and see if I can make that work into a real career, or do I try and make this D&D thing that's kind of taking off into a career, and do I, for a second time in my life, pursue a career in the arts and take that risk? And I was like, this thing fills me with passion and joy, and I'm excited to do it, so it's not really a choice. I'm going to do that. Stop saying probe deeper. Probe deeper. I'm just getting ready for choose your own adventure. All the probing. You know, that's going to make him say it several times again now. They know what they're doing. I'm here for the ASMR of Rob saying, probe deeper. Detect thoughts, second level spell with VSM components, so make sure to cast it before approaching the target, or have subtle spell and use sorcery points. A bit resource heavy for my liking. Yeah, what is second level spell? Let's have a look. Do I still have it open? D&D Beyond. Damn, I closed it. It'll take forever to open. I hate D&D Beyond's app constantly updating. Every time you open it, it's just like, updating sources. Yeah, I had you open 3 minutes ago. What do you think's updated? The stacking effect on the same target to make it harder and harder for them to resist. Yeah, I mean, it just kind of makes sense, right? If you have spent a long time with this person, learning who they are, learning what their surface thoughts constantly are, not just in this moment, but what do your surface thoughts keep returning to, and what are your deeper probing deeper? What are your deeper thoughts about? Quite often, if you've done it several times, then it would make sense to give you some sort of mechanical benefit for like then using that against them and giving them some sort of phantasmal fear of the thing that they're most afraid of. Set up for the expo is Wednesday. Oh, okay. So then, if on Tuesday, I mean, they'd still be open on Tuesday, right? They'd be going to the expo on Wednesday. So it's worth checking for. I'll see Thirsty Meeple's website and see if it says anything about. Will be closed on these dates. Thirsty Meeple's website. Let's see if it says anything on their about us or their news or anything. Trading card games, Magic the Gathering, trending treasures, Puzzle Paradise, Meeples, the Meeples blog. Is there anything here? May 23rd, 2025, new releases. Yeah, their blog's just all about new releases. Cafe opening hours, shop sale gift cards, the Oxford Cafe, opening times. Let's see if there's anything here about being closed on any of those days. The cover charge. If you're just playing games, then it's 3 hours for £10 per person. If you're getting games plus food, or food or drink, if you're buying food and drink there, then it's £8 for 3 hours instead of £10. Open every day of the year except Christmas Day, Boxing Day and New Year's Day. We get full up pretty quick, so to avoid disappointment we advise booking a table ahead of time. Might actually do that, might be smart. View our games library. I mean, if we get there on Tuesday and they don't actually have space to play, then so be it. We'll just go and take a look at it and take some photos over and walk around Oxford. No biggie. Neighbours Tomcat and my Tomcat are yelling insults at each other in the garden gate. Terrible noises. I mean, can you hear my my sister-in-law's cat? She's being real whiny at the moment. Perfect, the enemy of good. Well, I heard from a friend recently that like there's a distinction between perfect and flawless, which I think is very useful to remember. That something can be perfect for what you need it for right now. It doesn't have to be flawless to be. It's the perfect thing that it is as good as it needs to be for your purposes right now. And it's perfect. It would not be made better by being flawless. Like it's flawed, but that's part of it being perfect. And I think that's important to remember, that perfect and flawless aren't synonyms. Rob thinks he can do better than the world's best DM. That's a good point, Nedwich. That's a good point. Although it is 2025 and maybe I'm not the world's best DM, I don't know. We'll find out in a few months, I guess. I still haven't heard anything back about the Crit Awards this year, by the way. So when I do, if I'm nominated for something, you'll obviously hear about it. Just nice to comment. Brit wasn't available at the time of filming, so I wouldn't be surprised if she'd have won later. But I don't know. I heard she moved away again. She lives in Australia now, so yeah, it's harder to get her around for filming little supplemental stuffs. Rob, don't you usually say that good DMing is ensuring your players have fun, and all your players had fun? So at least in the first game you did a great job. Yeah, I could say that. Let's put it this way: if it was, if either of my Private Sanctum games had been a home game, or even just a game from somebody who hires me to DM but has been doing so for years, like if it was just one of a series of games or whatever, if it was part of a campaign, I would have been perfectly happy with how either of the Private Sanctum games went. I would have even probably been proud of it. But because it was a one-shot for a Private Sanctum, which I know aren't cheap, they're not. The tickets for a Private Sanctum aren't cheap, and I just kind of put extra pressure on myself for Private Sanctums to be really sort of blow your mind kind of good. Not just a good game, but like a whoa, I'm going to remember this forever kind of game. And I just don't feel like either of them were that, which kind of makes me feel like I let down people who paid that much money for joining the game. But I know that they still had fun and they enjoyed themselves and whatever, and it was a very nice location, and I think the whole sort of everything around the game is still, you know, worth going to. The location and the ambience and the friends that you can make by being at an in-person game and stuff. The Ranger's my favourite. I'm still hoping you'll be able to homebrew it. Yeah, I think I will one day, probably. Don't hold your breath on it. It's not high up on my priorities list. I will be making my own Ranger for my own game. Like I have my own tabletop role-playing game percolating. I've got notes on my phone all about it, and I've started thinking about the classes and stuff, and Ranger is going to be one of them. Can't remember exactly what I called Ranger. I renamed all of the different classes so that I could feel like they were my own. What did I go with for Ranger for now? The main rules. Or is it under classes? Classes. What did I go with for Ranger type? Warden. I went with Warden for nature for Rangers, and they're going to have a focus of nature magic, plants, fungi, and weather, like the understanding how to get around and like wilderness survival and stuff. And they're going to be slightly more distinct from druids, because druids are just going to be called shifters. Well, at the moment they might be. Druids are just called shifters at the moment, and there's more of a focus on animals and shape-shifting and kinship with animals and using animals as your friends and your so like the people with an animal companion are more likely to be the shifters probably than the wardens, just so that there feels like more of a distinction between druids and rangers. I think that's one of the reasons that rangers kind of get a bad rap, is that they're sort of druids, but they're also sort of fighters. And there's already classes for both of those things, so you don't really do either one as good as the other ones can do. And I think one of the ways to make rangers better is to give them more of a solid niche for themselves. The game was awesome, didn't want it to end, especially with the chance to meet Mary J. Well, that's kind of why I was upset with myself, Katie. I don't think the game itself was bad. It's just that my pacing was wrong. I expected, I had planned for you to go much further than you did. Like going to the Feywild and meeting Merry Gentlemen was meant to be at like halfway through it or something, because I had more planned after that, and then I just fucked up the pacing, and the battle went on a little bit too long and stuff, and I don't know. And so it was fine, but I kind of wish that I'd done a better job of getting you to the Feywild sooner. Because as it was, I didn't really explore Lilith's backstory about like the warlock that she'd made a deal with, and why she felt like the need for sadism and like hurting people whenever she attacked, like with her warlock abilities, like which Archfey patron had she made a pact with. I was going to explore all of that when you got to the Feywild, and I didn't. Why do nibblings keep growing? My niece is 12 tomorrow. I can't handle it. Yeah. I think I'm a little bit sad about leaving on Sunday. I'm going to take my nibbling to the game shop tomorrow to get some paints, to paint his mini when it arrives. And then I'm going to go around on Sunday as well to play D&D with him one more time. And to collect back my Monster Manual and Dungeon Master Guide that I lent him to have a look at. Hopefully he's actually read them, because I did make a point of being like, these are not presents. These were presents to me from the Wizards of the Coast people, and I haven't read them yet. So you can read them while I'm in the UK, because I won't have time to read them otherwise, but then I'm going to take them back when I leave. So I'm going to go around and spend some more time with them a little bit. But then I don't have another trip to the UK planned at any point in the future, so I don't know how long it's going to be. I think there's a little bit of twinge of sadness there to not know when I'll see my nibblings again. It's a long way to come and very expensive to come all the way to the UK. So even like doing it once a year is a lot. The Yorkshire Moors are beautiful, so desolate and atmospheric. I haven't been to the Yorkshire Moors. Well, I think I've probably been there as a kid and stuff, but I haven't been there in my living memory. I don't remember the Yorkshire Moors. I asked my granddad when we were out in the Dales, I was like, do you prefer the Dales or the Moors? And he goes, oh, Dales. They're more interesting. They're just like rolling hills and like nice windy bends and beautiful sights of all of these fields, all like patchworked with all of the stone, the dry stone walls. Whereas the Moors, he just said, are kind of expansive and a little bit boring. Thanks, Rob. I've watched all the Tales of the Misfits Isolation games and Descent. Nearly up to date with AOA. You should be okay then. jumping in at level 6 can be a bit overwhelming, but you've watched a lot of people play D&D, and hopefully you'll pick it up quickly. Visited my grandmother recently. I hadn't seen her in a few months. So good to catch up with her. Nice. Paris is where they keep all the good pastries. Is it? I feel like they probably make better pastries in other parts of France. The weather's been unusually great, like worryingly nice. Though I think the usual rain should be coming about, thankfully. My granddad just today, I went to visit him to say goodbye, and he was like, yeah, we've had a really lovely time, haven't we? It's been warm since January. And I was like, you're seeing that as a good thing because you're 96 and about to shuffle off this mortal coil. You're getting all of the benefits of being like, yay, global warming. We don't have a shitty winter here in Yorkshire anymore. It's not nearly as rain and dreary and grey anymore. Yeah, that's a problem because the fucking farmers need the rain, and without it, crops are dying and livestock have... Yeah. It's kind of a little bit worrying how nice the weather has been when it's not meant to have been. My nibbling sister's girls turned 25 and 26 this year. Had a great nibbling, just turned 1. Nice. Gotta do some things for just you, just not just for content. Yeah, it's hard to remember that sometimes. The next story gaming is going to be very world buildy. If you want a prompt, yeah, we'll be doing some story gaming with the potion craft stuff, but we've already got a lot of NPCs for this little town that we've made, so I think next time it's going to be much more of a focus on Legend Keeper, and then we're going to go through the Legend Keeper and like flesh out like more details of this town, and every time we get to something that's like what should we choose for the infrastructure of the town or whatever, we'll go back into the game of potion craft with the specific target of let's kind of breeze through the next few customers with a focus on answering this particular question. How do they get around? What sort of transportation do they have? Who's in charge? And what's the system of feudal lords that are in charge of the town? Whatever it is, we'll go back in with like a specific question to ask, and it'll be a little bit different, which is good because I think we can get towards the end of the potion craft series of story gaming. We need to start thinking about what other indie games we can play for the next season of story gaming. Which part of the Dales? We spent a fair few holidays there. Well, we went. I took my granddad all the way to Ribblehead Viaduct because he's a big trains guy. We went to Hawes, which I had a lot of fun making euphemisms about. That was going over my granddad's head, but AJ was snickering about it. I was like, oh, it's lovely in Hawes. I was like, if you're planning a day trip though, you don't want to finish in Hawes. That could lead to trouble. It's spelled Hawes. And I love being in Hawes. Where else did we go? We went through was it Scunthorpe? No, not Scunthorpe. We went through I don't think we made it all the way to, I can't remember now. There's lots and lots of different places. We were enjoying all of the ridiculous little names of places. I started on the day trip around the Dales. I was like, you could just take a list of NPC names and just take it from tiny little towns dotted around the Dales. There was a place called Giggleswick. Giggleswick. I was like, this is fucking hilarious. It's like a fucking gnome's name, or a town that the gnomes live in. Welcome to Giggleswick. We live on the edge of the Chortle Woods. In order to get to us, you have to cross over the Laughter Stream and go down Snicker Lane. Read the books, use the single-use things, eat the cookies. Books and cookies sound like a great time. You're an excellent private sanctum game, Rob. Thank you, Fancy. Wish I could drive, really miss it. I don't mind driving, but for me it's a bit of a means to an end. I don't do it for the pleasure of driving. Even though it would have been fun to go to the farewell in the game, you ended the first game in a perfect place story-wise, full circle of the main mission. Thank you. Thank you for saying so. Gotta do the things that bring you the joy just for you sometimes. Content will come, but you still need the things that spark joy. Yeah, I do. Yeah, bring your own board games and start that vibe yourself. Just turn up to a cafe and be like, is it okay if we play a board game on this table? And then if you've got board games, just leave them at the thing and just be like, can I leave it here? We can start a little board game collection. Like, especially if you're a local at one of the one of the cafes or something. Had a brewery near me when I used to live that had a restaurant, also a wall of games to play. It was a great place to hang out. Nice. May and June are super busy months, winter months, things slow down again. AJ will like Blackwell's bookstore, higgledy-piggledy, and used to have an area you could sit and read. Nice. Well, Blackwell's is right across the road, so nothing's far in Oxford, yeah. Only one map's released so far, Rob. Yeah, that's totally what I said. I know what's on my merch store. I am definitely in charge and up to date with all the things that are going on with the Robert Hartley GM merch store. I definitely know that. We have another map coming, guys. exclusive release. This was the intended way for me to release this information. Now I'm pretty sure we've already told you that we have another map coming, right? That wasn't new information. Did I miss a map? No, apparently you didn't. Apparently I just forgot which things were released on my own store. Maybe we want to go shopping in Oxford. It might be a bank holiday Monday job. A lovely gaming cafe near me in Cleethorpes called Roll the Dice. Roll the Dice. I run Kids D&D there. Two of the kids are VLDL fans and we're mega jealous that I got to play at the table with you. Nice. Nice. Sci-fi one's all modern in if I recall correctly. The old Blackwell's with the Cafe Nero is much prettier. Well, I'm sure we'll have time to walk around them all. Fortunately, the original Oxford Games shop, the Gameskeeper, closed a couple of years ago. Been there since 81. Wow. One of the only board game coffee shops in my area closed down last week. Burger. Are we far enough behind that we all just be quiet and wait, or are we supposed to make it worse? Says Nedwich. I thought you were running out of battery. Didn't realise you're so close to the hill. Not going to watch people break bones. What? Break bones? What? Who? What? Who? Which hill? Why do people break bones? What? When Mishandra lost her arm, it was both devastating and amazing. If I hadn't deflected missiles, it would have been taking the massive damage and potentially dropped anyway. Yeah, you managed to drop it below half your hit points for the damage you actually took, which meant that you didn't risk the massive damage dropping to 0. Need to go, can't stay. No worries, Estalry. Thanks for being here anyway. Happy May. See you again later. Death Roulette hype? Yeah, I haven't chosen who all of my panelists are going to be yet, but I've approached a couple of the regulars. Zach's in again for this year. Zach is down to be the little guinea pig that is forced to do stupid shit across the stage for money. So yeah, we're going to have a few regular faces, but also Phoenix is going to be joining us, which is exciting. So that's coming back. Any other panels submitted? Not yet. I've got three panels that I'm going to be submitting. I've written the form out. I haven't submitted it because I haven't double checked it all yet. But Death Roulette, for which, let's face it, is going to be accepted, because why would they not at this point? I've raised $7,000 for them every year for the last 3 years in a row, so they'd be weird to not accept it. I'm going to be submitting my Twitch Tales Live. I'm not going to call it Twitch Tales Live this time. That was the mistake of the first time that I did it. Was nobody, if you don't know what Twitch Tales is, or you just see Twitch and think I've got no interest in Twitch, then you don't read ahead. I'm going to be calling it Come Play with Robert Hartley GM. Because yeah, euphemisms. So I'm going to be submitting Twitch Tales Live. Let's see if they accept it. I did submit it last year and they didn't accept it. And then I'm also going to be submitting my voice panel, my accent work panel, Finding Your Voice, which is a seminar that I ran at Gen Con. It was very successful. It's adapted from a panel that I ran with AJ and Ellen a couple of years ago. But this time I'll be submitting it as just my own, with a focus on like how to develop character voices in D&D and role-playing games and stuff. So hopefully all 3 get accepted, but if not, I'll at least be doing Death Roulette. I'm excited for PAX Oz, because by that point it'll have been a whole year since I've been to conventions. Been enjoying speculating about the mysterious mask in Discord lately. Don't suppose you'd like to give any hints? I would not like to give any hints, no. I saw you speculating about the mysterious mask because you were in the Reddit thread. Somebody in Reddit had, in the Viva La Dirt League subreddit, had been like, "All right, I've got a theory about the mask," and they big long wall of text about what they think the mask is and why and blah blah blah. And I saw one of the comments was from Calamai being like, "Come to Rob's Discord and talk all about the mask." Sup, Ghost Pete? How's it going? Heading out as well, Cecily. No worries. Thank you for being here. Not that you heard this because this was like an hour and a half ago. Just finished DMing for the night. Thought I'd join here. Welcome in, Zones Lemming. How's it going? How did your game go tonight? What were you doing? Was it a recurring game? Tell us all about it. Time check. It's currently top of the hour, says Michael. It is 10:26, so I am 26 minutes late. 26 minutes behind the chat, I guess. I'm not normally behind the chat with exclusive charisma checks. Not since I put them behind the paywall of Patreon and YouTube members. So that's pretty encouraging that I have enough Patreon patrons and YouTube members supporting me financially that I can end up with an old school charisma check, because a lot of you guys wouldn't have been around for long enough to know that charisma check used to have been a thing, right? Charisma check started out because when I started streaming, I was doing a lot of Robert Reed streams. I was reading just any old books, like classics that were in the public domain, like Sherlock Holmes or Alice in Wonderland, whatever. And at the start of the stream, I'd be trying to catch up with the chat. Who's in? How you doing? And I'd end up reading every comment, and then it would often be like an hour before I actually started reading the book, and it got longer and longer and longer until one time I was like 2 hours behind the chat and had to just stop the stream because I'd been going for 8 hours or something stupid. And at that point I was like, I can't do this anymore, and I split it off into its own stream for a while of just charisma check and Robert Reed's. So my Robert Reed's was like, hey everybody, I'm not going to read the chat, I'm just going to jump straight into the book. And then charisma checks were what I'm doing now. And even they became too unwieldy. Like I was just looking at my schedule of things to do and my streams, and I was just like, something's got to give. And charisma check disappeared, and it was gone for a while, and people were sad about it. But it was the least D&D focused stream that I had, and I wanted to sort of remain more of a D&D variety streamer, I guess. And then when I was looking for perks for my Patreon, we decided to chuck a monthly charisma check here because people enjoyed it so much, and for the longest time it's been manageable. I've been able to actually keep up with chatting and maybe play some games online or something, or do some quizzes or whatever. But I must be doing it at a more approachable time at this time zone. I was acing that test, yeah. I don't do things by half. I'm not one to fail a test. I do 142 on a test. I struggled with most physics, which was sad. Yeah, it's real tough. I was pretty good at mechanics and optics. For some reason, electricity as a concept, it's like a white whale. It's like there's a mental block. I just can't get there's something about electrons and current and voltage and watts, and it makes me go, I don't know. Which is weird because magnetism, which is very strongly related, I was fine with magnetism. Like I could work out, because I suppose the mechanics elements of magnetism was easier. But I was not good at electricity. I wasn't good with quantum, but then again, nobody is. What are the other elements of physics that you learn, the different topics? Thermodynamics, fuck that. I don't even remember the other types of physics. Congrats, Rob, blazing the pathway for a lot of people to do the same. Getting diagnosed is hard. Yeah, takes time, but we'll get there. Love physics, but hated having to do experiments. Interesting. You didn't like the experiments. Macro standard physics is messy and frustrating. Quantum mechanics is so fluid and lovely. And utterly incomprehensible. Intrigued by the idea that people choose degrees with a job in mind. When did that start? Through my studies I learned to love both math and physics. Great at either? No. Do I love them both? Absolutely. I had to retake all of my calculus and physics courses for my undergrad. ADHD! Pretty sure I am, but the NHS moves slowly. Uni level stuff's the hardest version of the thing that is possible. That's fair. Didn't get on with physics, but I think it's partly down to the teacher. I love maths. Everything's down to the teacher. It's crazy how much the teachers can influence how well you do at stuff. I don't think I've ever had a good chemistry teacher, which is why I just never liked chemistry. Even though it's kind of just applied physics. And the rote learning aspect of chemistry is boring as fuck. I think if I was just autistic and not ADHD, then I might have done really well at chemistry, because it is just kind of rote learning and put these symbols next to these other symbols and whatever. But yeah, it just never was interesting to me, and I don't think I've ever had a good chemistry teacher. They've all been like droning, boring as fuck. Love maths education, fell into it by accident. How'd you get into it, Zon? I did physics, but not all physics was retained equally. I learned that I'm good at making connections and suck at facts. Fair enough. Charisma checks. Come for the chats, stay for Rob whispering probe deeper into your headphones. Yeah. Probe deeper. I'm grand, exhausted, but good. Good. I'm glad to hear that. Well, except for the exhausted part. I did chemistry at uni, now I teach it at secondary school. Still undiagnosed ADHD, been waiting list 4 years, I think. God damn, 4 years. Holy shit. A long time. Hopefully you're a good chemistry teacher, Katie, after I was just ragging on chemistry. I wasn't ragging on chemistry. I was ragging on chemistry education. I think my brain surgery contributed to ADHD and autism in me, maybe. I feel a lot more now. Contributed to the presentation of it, perhaps, yeah. I just think it's really fun to see what people studied at school, uni, versus what field they ended up in. I did history and ended up in HR. Yeah, I've done acting and maths as my 2 degrees, and I guess I've kind of, in a way, using them both, just not at the level that each one would expect you to. I'm using a little bit of the acting degree and a little bit of the maths degree. It reminds me, half term next week could be quite busy. That's about D&D Beyond's making an account, I think. A little bit confusing, is it? Cost you the world's best DM, as if that was ever in doubt. If the Crit Awards fails to realise it this time around, we'll still know better. Yeah. That's why it's best DM for now and all eternity, in this life and the next, etc., etc. Started out in anthropology in school, and now I'm an audiometrist. Anthropology career paths were not what I wanted with my life. But anthropology degree was. Interesting. Rob, the games were good. Mind-blowingly good. Thank you. Could be better. I could have done a better job. Pretty sure all the players will remember it forever. Well, they'd have remembered it forever longer. Well, my private sanctum in the group I played with, we stayed together, and now we play once a month. Awesome! I like hearing that, Horace. That's awesome. I really like that. Cool. They were like mint choc chip good. Thank you. So much lore. You did get a lot of lore in the private sanctum. They actually did uncover a huge chunk of the story, the bigger what's going on behind the scenes kind of story at Fancy's private sanctum on Monday just gone, was it? So that was pretty impressive, and partly because they did some really good rolls and stuff. There was I wasn't quite anticipating to give away quite as much as I did, but they did well, and they met one of the Archfey that nobody had ever met before, an Archfey called the Husk. They met him, and it was very cool to get an opportunity to actually describe him and play him. This coyote-headed, were-coyote-looking guy, huge, 9 foot tall, muscular guy. He's an interesting archfey for sure. So good that Sorrel and Varys are considering pacts with archfey. Yeah. So many people always considering a pact with my archfey. I think that tells me something about my archfey, like how I present my archfey. People are like, yeah, I'll make a pact with you. Why not? Always make pacts with archfays. There are never any consequences, I'm sure. I'm a mechanical graduate engineer. No, graduate engineer. The only benefit is I can tell people that I'm a mechanical graduate engineer. That's the only benefit of it. Does she have the same patron as Nathaniel? She does not. Is Nathaniel's patron a fiery sadist? No. Is there any way you could contact Tara at Viva and ask her to mail that package with or without Phoenix and Rhee's signatures? Yeah, I can do that. If you want my photo, if you want my signed photo and you don't want to wait on Phoenix and Rhee, I can let her know that when I see her again. Hey, if you don't like your seasonally prescribed wildfires with record GHG emissions and crazy weather patterns, then you can leave. What's GHG emissions? Oops, suddenly jumped again. I must be getting closer to where the bottom was back when I last updated, because it suddenly jumped. Where is it? Where is it? Where was I? Mint choc chip. There we are. Would have loved to explore that part of Lilith's story, but there is only so much you can do in 4 hours after all. I don't mind it being a mystery, since we did do a full story with others. You did, yes. And if you take any solace in it, know that that story continues in the world, even if you never get the chance to explore it. What happened with Lilith and the backstory that you inspired in the world, there's a reason for all of it, and it's all, everybody who ever joins one of my games is partially adding to this enormous tapestry of a story that we're creating. And so it's not retconned, it's never gotten rid of. So Lilith's story is being told, whether it's told on the surface or not. Like somebody learned recently that I was still using a changeling called the Mimic in my games, and he was like, oh shit, the Mimic's still in your games. I love that I gave you that idea or something, because the Mimic was straight up from somebody else's backstory. They their family was slaughtered and stuff, and they learned that there was a changeling involved called the Mimic, and that's all they told me. And I was like, oh sweet, that's a cool character, I'm going to steal that and I'm going to utilize it, and I'm going to decide who the Mimic is and why they killed your family and who they work for, and then I introduced that character into another private sanctum, and they met the Mimic as well, and I mentioned to them, yeah, the Mimic's still actually around, and they're like, yay, contributed to your world. Everybody contributes to the world, and I love that. I love the really hugely collaborative element of my my Rin, my world. If this was Twitch, I love being in Hawes is exactly the kind of thing that would get clipped out of context. Don't finish in Hawes. You're gonna keep going, because otherwise you're stranded. You need to finish back where you started. If you're planning a day trip, you got to go to Hawes and then you got to come back. I went to Giggleswick once just because I saw the town name and had to go. Pissing myself laughing, yeah. Giggleswick. What a fucking cool place. Speaking of indie games, there's one called Chants of Senar. I think you'd really enjoy. It's a linguistics puzzle game. Don't really know if it'd be any good for storage gaming. It's on sale right now and there's a free demo. Ooh. Let me open up Steam and add it to my wish list or something. I'll grab the free demo at least. What was it called? Chants of Senar. Store. Search. Chants of, and it's popped right up already. Boom. Chants of Senar demo. Alright, calm it down, shush. Thank you. Add it to your, no, wait, download. Download the free demo. Install. and then go to the one that was actually full price like that. I guess I can add it to your wish list like that, easy. Boom. Alright, we'll give that a go. Thank you for the suggestion. I think we've teased it. We have teased that there is a map coming, I'm sure. We do have a map coming at some point later this year. I now remember why we haven't released it yet. There was a reason for when we were going to release it, and I now remember why we haven't. I just forgot that we hadn't, because we commissioned it a while ago, and I just kind of assumed that it was out already. Had an amazing time at the private sanctum. I know you're disappointed in yourself, but if the aim is to give your players a great experience, I certainly had a wonderful time. Thank you very much for saying so, Zonslemming. Rejoice, for I have returned. Thank you, Nerdwitch. Thank you for the announcement. I didn't notice you were gone because I haven't actually caught up to the chat yet. Download complete. Your game is ready to play. Sounds like something I'd like to. Could be good for fleshing out languages in Rin. Oh yeah, maybe. I'll have a look at it if it's linguistic puzzles. I do like linguistics and puzzles, so it might be right up my nerdy alley. One of my favourite place names is Pity Me. I guess I'll have another map to add to my map wall soon. Speaking of place names, I was struck with a desire to learn the longest place name in New Zealand recently. I've been there. It's like a single hill. There's nothing built there. It's a single hill, and it's got a sign. It's got a sign there that's like the name of the place, and the sign is almost as wide as the hill. And I don't remember what it is now, but I was like, ooh, it'd be cool if I knew that off the top of my head. There is a song that sings the name of the place that has come up on my like Insta reels and stuff before that. I was like, oh, if I play that over and over again, I'll actually be able to learn the place name. I'm interested enough to look it up now. I'm gonna open up a new window and quickly look it up. Longest place name New Zealand. It's a Maori word, and it is it means something like, see if I can remember it before I look it up. It means something like the hill on which Tomatea, I think his name is, the hill on which Tomatea, the man with the long knee, the man with the big knees, who climbed, slid, and tumbled over hills, rested beneath a tree and played his flute to his lover, or something like that. That's like that's the name of this place. But obviously it's all a single word and it's in the Maori language. It's 85 characters long. Tau mata whakatangi hangako au au tau mate aturi puka kapi ki maunga horonuku pokai whenua ki tana tahu. Something like that. It's near Porangahau in Hawke's Bay. It's an unassuming hill known as Taumata Whakatangi Hangako Au or Tamatea Turi Pukakapiki Maunga Horo Nuku Pokai Whenua Kitana Tahu, which is easier if you actually put spaces in it between the words. It translates into English as the place where Tamatea, the man with the big knees, who slid, climbed and swallowed mountains, known as Land Eater, played his flute to his loved one. Ooh, I was pretty close. Locals simply call it Taumata Hill. Tamatea was a famous war chief and warrior. One day, while travelling through the back of Porangahau, he encountered another tribe and had to fight them to get past. During the fight, his brother was killed. Tamatea was so grieved over the loss of his brother that he stayed at the battle site for some days. Each morning he would sit on the hill and play a lament on what is called the koauau, or the Maori flute. You can find this hill by driving south from Waipukurau for about 55 kilometres, turn right onto Wimbledon Road. A sign displaying the name is situated about 5 kilometres along the road. It's a great photo opportunity. The actual place is on private land, so permission is required before you can walk to it. Tau mata whakatangi hangako au o tamatea turi pukakapiki. Pukakapiki is, that trips me up because it doesn't follow usual Māori not spelling, Māori construction, because it's quite common to have a word repeated because they don't really have pluralization in Māori, but like a what's a good example? Papatoitoi. Papatoitoi instead of papatoi, you say papatoitoi because you say the toi twice. So puka kapiki, it kind of my brain is kind of half reading it ahead of time and thinking it's going to say puka puka, but it's puka kapiki. Tau mata whakatangi hangako au o tamatea turi puka kapiki. Maunga horo nuku po kai whenua kita nā tahu. I think I'll learn that one day. Winter said she was close to the cheese rolling, hence breaking bones. Oh, okay. For your information in half an hour's time. Yeah. Thank you for letting me know. Breaking bones, cheese rolling. I don't think I'll be doing that. That's a super nice game either way though. I regularly point people at it. It's on sale. Nice. There's at least one or more things waiting for release on the store. Maybe. Wait, Steve. I never agreed to that. I'm just a quieter troll. Gloucester, the fishing town in North Massachusetts. No. Fang, you missed Rob's deeply probing commentary. Poor Zach, he's so game for it. Yeah, he loves it. He loves it. Loves it. Come play, brackets at D&D, brackets with me. Come play with me. Come play with Robert Hartley GM. Come watch Robert Hartley GM play with himself on stage. Where's the comma going in the title? Watched the past TT live the other day. It was very fun. Yeah, you can check out the past Twitch Tales lives on the Gen Con, the PAX Oz YouTube channel, along with the Death Roulette ones as well. All three of those are still live on there as well. Got to recruit more to the Discord. It's a gateway next is to get them into Twitch. Yeah. Fly, my pretties. More words, extra words, pushing the lines down. Thanks, Fancy. Ya bastard. What's our charisma modifier +7? Streaming an hour before the stream starts. Yeah, not much has changed. Gotta say, I do love the accents. Fairly sure my Elven Ranger is going to be Welsh. Going to be a Welsh Ranger. I played in a game the other day here in York with some people that have been hiring me as a GM for years now, but it's always been online because they live here in the UK and I don't. But they heard I was going to be here and was like, "Oh, can we do a one in person?" And while we were playing, one of them talked about the what's it called again? The hearing sounds and mimicking sounds, and it's associated heavily with autism, but it's like you hear a sound and you want to repeat the sound, or is it ADHD? One of them. I think it's autism. She has whatever that was. I can't remember what it's called now, but she has that, and she says, and it's particularly bad with accents. So like my Welsh, I was talking about how my Yorkshire accent's really strong when I'm in the UK, blah blah blah. And she was like, "Yeah, my Welsh accent comes back strong, blah blah blah." And I was like, "Oh, you're from Wales?" And she goes, "I have a Welsh accent normally, and if it turns on, I can't stop it. I can't turn it off again." And I was like, "Well, interesting, isn't it?" And she goes, "Don't." And she immediately shuts it off. And for the rest of the day, she was just in Welsh, and she couldn't turn it off. And her character in the game is not Welsh, and so she was really pissed that she couldn't do her character's voice because she wasn't really pissed. She was jokingly pissed that she couldn't do her character's voice because she couldn't turn off the fucking Welsh accent. My DMing was the third session of running Wild Beyond the Witchlight, which I bought because I was inspired by the AOA. Nice. Really fun session where the players were planning a heist. Cool. Less than 30 minutes is keeping up. Yeah. Optics and lenses were my fave. Just bring the convo back to physics. Thanks. Particle physics. Nuclear physics. I don't think we did any courses on nuclear in the bachelor's that I did. Solid state physics. I think that must have been later stuff. I didn't really get. I got into. I did all of. Well, not all of. I did a bunch of physics 1 classes and physics 2 classes, but I don't think I did any physics 3 classes because by my 3rd year in the university, I'd realised that physics 2 was kicking my ass and I just wasn't smart enough to keep up with it all. Rob, good at magnetism, checks out. Yeah, not just animal magnetism. Fine with magnetism because of all my charisma. Yeah. Thermodynamics was on chemistry too. Yeah, fuck thermodynamics, man. That is a horrible, horrible topic. You do still get used to get to use your math powers though. Still amazed by the time you solve the brainfish riddle using binary code. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, but that's just solving binary. That's not like applied mathematics. It's not like I'm doing integrals and calculus. I'm not doing linear algebra. You leave quantum physics alone. It's lovely. It's lovely and crazy and completely nuts and just nothing to do with any other physics and just breaks everybody who tries to understand it. There's a lovely clip that of like a quantum physics professor at university, obviously, and it's like his introduction to starting the course, and he goes, "Hey, so we're starting quantum physics today, and at the moment, I'm the only one in the room who doesn't understand quantum physics, and my job is to make it so that in a week, none of you understand quantum physics." I had 2 great chemistry teachers, but I went to 4 secondary schools, so there's no follow-through. Bugger. I make chemistry fun. Nice. Good. Glad to hear it. My teenage son walked in just in time for that probe deeper. Probe deeper. Explaining it's the DM that I told him about doesn't help. ADHD and fireballs make me teach chemistry in a fun way. Fireballs. Yeah. I did have one. Oh no, I think that was in a physics lesson actually. He might have been a chemistry teacher back at high school. It'd be amazing if I could remember his name. I barely remember what he looked like. Wild white hair. I'm surprised he had any hair at all because he was known for like using fire and going like poof, and like big explosions and shit, and not being fully on top of his safety measures. Like hydrogen balloons filled with hydrogen and then popping it with an ember on a stick. That sort of shit. Got into maths education as the Scottish government were offering bursaries for trainee maths teachers, and I had no real career at that point. Ended up loving teaching and now a maths lecturer at uni. Nice. It's good that you got into it and loved it, because a lot of people who get into it and love the teaching aspects end up dropping out because they just don't love all of the bureaucracy bullshit about it. Chemistry and electrophysics, real life magic. Yeah, for sure. Yes, look from afar. Eventually, I found out how I just love how brains work. Yeah, brains are interesting. Asks my granddad, I'm scared. I did mention your character in their game, in Nerdwitch. Their game, they sort of created a team that were investigators, and they were sent off on quests to investigate all of the things that had happened in the previous Private Sanctums from last year, which a lot of them were elements of the Husk and stuff, and like people murdering folk or theatres getting arson attacks and like all sorts of shit. And so I was like, somebody is going to have to clean that shit up. Somebody is employed to clean up after adventuring parties. And so this adventuring party that Fancy was in was that group that was sent off to investigate and tie and like sort of piece together all of the clues that I'd been giving out at the various private sanctums. And so they went, the Husk is very much involved because he keeps coming up again and again in all of these different private sanctum games, essentially. And they went off to the Feywild to investigate the Husk and challenge him on why he was, what he was doing and why, and all that stuff. The Husk sounds a bit fiery. He is quite. Nathaniel's was the Merry Gentleman, not the Husk, correct. Playing a 2024 Ranger at the moment in Icewind Dale. Something of the something. Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frostmaiden, that's it. Gonna be a Gloomstalker. I don't like how the class focuses with so much Hunter's Mark while keeping the concentration. Yeah, that's a lot of people's feedback, criticism of the 5.5 Ranger is that it's like everything you have revolves around your Hunter's Mark, and you can do it once a day for free. Cool. Why can I not do anything else while I have it active then? Because it's concentration. But if you get to something like fucking 15th level or something stupid, then now you can't drop concentration from taking damage. But it still is concentration, and you still can take concentration drop it from other reasons. Yeah, that's her name. Tapestry of stories. I love that imagery. Yeah. My character just happened to have a bit of a temper, and I had no idea until it was too late. Yes, indeed. It was fun. Really nice to know. If I ever want to know what happened, I suppose I just have to collect 1 million channel points to redeem a play with me. Yeah, exactly. Saving my points for the same thing. Gonna take a while. Would you be able to release the rules in a homebrew document or something for me? The Leothal debate fight. It will be coming, Chase. Yeah, I have got on my to-do list one of the projects in the upcoming months is to finish off the rules of the debate mechanics and release them properly on my Patreon. I'm impressed by his ability to finally reach a comment replying to something said half an hour ago and still remember the conversation. I got a lot of practice. I used to do this a lot. Sometimes I do request that some people put a little bit of context in their answer. So I'm like, what are we talking about? I love the whole connectedness of Rin and how it's alive and kicking always, and everyone who dips in has an effect on it. It's so cool. Thank you. I'm pretty happy with it. It does mean that I put so much fucking extra work on me. Like, part of the reason I was disappointed in myself for the first of the Private Sanctums this time was that as soon as somebody said, "Oh, I'm an Archfey and I don't know who I made a pact with because I have 2 years of amnesia when I went into the Feywild and just arrived back and I had different weapons and clothing and I could summon a whip now and I don't know where my friends are and all this," and I was like, awesome, that's fucking delicious. I'm gonna eat that up and incorporate you into the Archfey plot that was ongoing. Soon at that point I was like, oh, what was my Archfey plot? It was back in September, October, and I did like 15 Private Sanctum games pretty much back to back over the course of a month. And like, what was happening? I know that there was like an underlying theme to all of it, and there was an Archfey, and everybody was getting a different piece of the jigsaw puzzle, and not all the pieces were out there. And this gives me an opportunity to explore that, but I can't remember what the fuck I was doing, and I had to go through back. So instead of preparing for one Private Sanctum, I had to go through all of the documents for all of the 15 Private Sanctums that I'd done before that and remind myself which of them was related to the Archfey plot and which was not, and what happened in each one, and like ask all of the players for their notes on it, because sometimes my notes are a little bit sparse during the game because I do a lot of prep before the game, and then during the game I just kind of focus on telling the story and I forget to then write down anything I've improvised. So I've like, oh, something happened, or the players did something to change the plan, and then that guy has to adapt, and then I don't necessarily take the time after the game to write it down because fuck future Rob. Love it when past Rob does that to me. Yeah, so it was a lot of work because I was like, fuck, now I need to remember how all of the Archfey shit happens. And so having this quality of like everybody's story takes place in the same world and they're all having an effect on each other is fantastic, but it is a lot of work to try and keep a track of it all, and try and keep a track of some sort of a timeline throughout it all as well, because with some people disappearing into the Feywild and reappearing 2 years later, and then some people, their character appears in one Private Sanctum and then they come back again in another Private Sanctum but they're 2 levels up. It's like, okay, so there's been some time between you appearing now and when you appear again, so that's time's passed. So how is that going to work with the game? The answer is try and be ambiguous with when I'm setting each private sanctum. Sometimes they don't need to know what date it is, and therefore I'm not going to tell you, because then it's less chance that I'm gonna shoot myself in the foot with that later. ADHD would have zipped that into the void. No, I think I'm pretty good at remembering. Is it the autism or the ADHD that makes it so that you will go off on tangents, but you tend to remember what you left? I always have a feeling of like when I've left something on, when I've gone off on a tangent, I have a feeling of needing to go back to something. I think that's the autism, right? Because autism often comes with a presentation of needing to finish a task before you move on to another. So I think the ADHD takes me off on tangents, and the autism, like, that's an unfinished task and I'm not going to forget it. So it upsets me when I have that thing where I'm like, oh, I need to bring that up later, and then I go, there was something else I wanted to talk about and I've forgotten it, and it's like, fuck, damn it, I hate that when that happens. I think he's catching up. Was catching up. More tangents needed. He's lost again, never mind. That lasted a while, fella. I want to know what Ozymandias was doing with the Merry Gentleman. Why was he messing with Ziggy? He wasn't. I'll tell you this. He wasn't working with Merry Gentleman. He took you to the Feywild, and because of where you were in the world, in the material plane, the Prenethesine, because of where you were in the Prenethesine, the equivalent area in the Feywild is Avalon, which is the Merry Gentleman's terrain. So he took you to Avalon, took you to the Feywild. You touched down where you happened to be, which was Avalon, and he was like, oh, I know the ruler of this land is the Merry Gentleman, let's go speak to him. But Ozymandias was not working with the Merry Gentleman, he was working with one of the other Archfey, who is an Archfey that I don't think anybody's officially met him at a game, but one character in one of the private sanctums did make a pact of sorts. Not a wall. It might have been a warlock thing. Yeah, I think it was a warlock thing actually. I think one of the players at one of the private sanctums is a warlock of this other Archfey. But all of their interactions happened like off camera, as it were, and then they had like a brief dream moment where they remembered who their patron was or something, but they haven't actually met them. I don't think I've had an opportunity to describe that patron yet. Sounds like the longest place in Wales, which is something like the train station near the hill. Yeah, I don't know the pronunciation properly, but it's something like Llanfuer Pwllgwyngyl Golgeril Chwendrobwyl Antisilio Gogogoch. I learned that one when I was a child, because we had one of those token pennies that you put into a machine and turn a crank and it presses it, and it was like written around in a spiral from the outside of the penny to the inside. And I learned that one, but obviously I learned it with just reading it, so I don't know the Welsh pronunciations of it. I'd love for anyone to join in right now with me just reading out Māori words. It's like German in that nouns can be stacked. I guess so. I guess in place names maybe. Māori doesn't just like chuck words together like German does, but I guess it does it when it's a place name. The big knees? Yeah. Yeah, big knees. I don't know why it's if you ever name a place after me, don't just use a random part of my anatomy to don't use a random part of my anatomy to describe as this is the house that Robert, the dungeon master with the big knees, played his flute to his lover or whatever. At least not with knees, please. When I was 10, got a fridge magnet with the name going around it. Nice. On one hand, more tangent means getting further behind chat. On the other, I do love the tangents. I like how they define the person and include their mythology all within the name of the hill. I'm guessing that Robert Reed's of Choose Your Own Adventure is not on YouTube of Dragon's Den. I think it is. Isn't the Robert Reed's Dragon's Den on YouTube? Or if it's not, maybe it's coming. I think it's coming. I think it's on YouTube. Dragon's Den is on YouTube, says Ms. Blue the Great. There you go then. Just demonetized. I got the meaning wrong there. Google says it means St. Mary's Church in the hollow of the White Hazel near a rapid whirlpool and the Church of St. Tisilio. Tisilio go. Llanty Silio go. Lan. I've always thought it was Llanty Silio. Llanty Silio. But it's Lan Tisilio. Goch. Red Cave. Goch must mean Red Cave. Echolalia, thank you, that's the word. Echolalia. Shrinking violet. Does anybody remember what the shrinking violet was genuinely in response to? What was it? One of the Robert Reeds? Was it something I was asking about Robert Reeds, or was it just a charisma check situation? Was it just something random? I can't remember what prompted me to ask about shrinking violet. Question I just thought of: what's the difference between an accent and a dialect? Generally, everything in linguistics is variable and changing, and language is descriptive, not prescriptive, especially in English. And so some people might argue differently. But the definition that I've heard most often is that an accent is if you are speaking in a foreign voice, a foreign language to your native tongue. So if I was to speak French, I would speak French with an English accent, or a French speaker would speak English with a French accent. Whereas a dialect is within that accent, within that language of your native tongue, you would speak with different dialects. And even you can speak with both an accent and a dialect. So you might hear a French person speaking with a French person might speak to you with an English accent. Sorry, strike that. A French person might speak to you, and you happen to know that they're French because they're speaking with a French accent. But further still, if you happen to know lots about France, you might be able to recognise that they're speaking with a Normandy dialect or a Parisian dialect or whatever, and then be able to pick up on, like, are you from Nice or Toulouse or whatever? Dialects are regional, accents are more language, is what I've heard, but they tend to be used a little bit more interchangeable. Got to play D&D for the first time in like a year this week, and it was super fun. Reignited to spark a bit. Awesome. Like, what were you playing? I think I saw something. I think I skim read something in the Discord or something about you wanting to know about a character that you wanted to play, or like being excited for a character you wanted to play or something. What were you playing? It has jumped again. This fucking chat. I do it constantly during your streams. What's mimic my voice? I say good night. Have a nice weekend. See you later. Utabak. I think dialects can encompass local words, while accents just how it sounds. Well, dialect, if you're including the different words, then that would be the vocabulary as well. So like I could do a Newcastle dialect without necessarily using all of the I could do a Newcastle dialect without the vocabulary that a Newcastle and Newcastrian, what's the demonym for Newcastle? Newcastellan. That I wouldn't necessarily have to use the vocabulary that they use, but without using the right vocabulary, then I would never be able to pass as someone from Newcastle. But I think it would still be a dialect regardless, because it's not an accent, because I speak English, and so do they. As Rob talked about the 2025 Artificer, I hope we get Rob reads when he reads the book for the first time, though I wonder how long we'll have to wait. Is there a 2025 Artificer? I haven't heard about the 2025 Artificer. Has that been recently announced, Bullet Lukey? Let me Google it. 2025 Artificer. Eberron, Forge of the Artificer releases August 19th, 2025. Ooh, exciting. I've been waiting for the Artificer to release. Eberron, Forge of the Artificer. Forge wonders with the Artificer, the ultimate creative class. 112-page expansion unlocks your workshop of the arcane. 5 different subclasses, 4 of them reimagined and 1 new. I'm excited for the new one. The cartographer, oh shit, yes. Magic maps, that's cool. A cartographer who charts the unknown with maps that reshape reality. 5 different revised species, so they're starting to bring out the extended options for the 5.5 rules. 17 new evocative backgrounds, and 28 new feats that let your imagination defy gravity. New spells, bastions, and magical invocations that turn every choice into a creation. 3 campaign frameworks to channel Eberron's wild genres: noir intrigue, sky-high pulp, and political peril. 20 plus new monsters, each tailored to haunt, thrill, and awe in the genre you're forging. If it's an Eberron situation, then the species, one of the revised species, will be the Warforged. Another should be the Kalashtar, I think, is an Eberron geezer. Another one will be the not Kenku, the what's the little klepto halflings called? Can't remember. The little halflings, but they're kleptomaniacs. That'll be one of the species in it, most likely. Got slightly distracted for a bit. Now my ears are telling me they heard murder hammocks, and I'm lost. I don't think I said murder hammocks at any point. Timestamping 22:53. It is 11:11. So I am 18 minutes behind. I love how probe deeper comes back on a 20-minute cycle now. I think the takeaway here is that if we write probe deeper, he's going to keep saying it. The new Artificer is coming soon, August 19. Included in Eberron Forge of the Artificer book. I got taught how to enrich uranium as part of my course and had to learn the process. My brain did not want to keep that though. Enrich uranium. Ooh. My degree's in elementary education because I was told that we were short on teachers. When I tried to get a job, there were 5,000 unemployed teachers to compete against. Yeah, that's because the person who was deciding whether you were whether you had enough teachers or not had not had a good elementary education, ironically. Ooh, theatre's burning down, you say? Yes, indeed, theatre's burning down. That is one of the things that you are going to find out. Well, I don't know if I was going to tell you that in your game. I definitely linked the two together. There was a reason that your theatre burned down, and it was linked to another Private Sanctum where somebody in their backstory said their theatre burned down, and I was like, I don't mind if I do. Chomp, chomp, chomp. Nom, 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 nom. Make a story. And those things got very nicely in a nice, tidy bow. We definitely didn't go there to challenge him. We merely mentioned the things in his hearing. We ain't fools. Vex says no one gets to kill him until she gets to talk to him. Oh, no one could kill him. He's an archfey. They were a level 7 group. If they'd have started trying to fight the Husk, they would have died probably instantly. I did kill somebody instantly yesterday in a... this is a weird confession to make online. Hopefully the police don't see this. And it's completely unrelated to D&D. I just got road rage and killed some guy. No, I killed a player character in a game yesterday. Just kind of an instant death as well, not even death saves. They were talking back to somebody of very I think they're a level 3 character. No, level 4 I think. They had like 26 hit points, and they were talking back to a very high powerful necromancer, and he was already very pissed at them, and he basically gave her she attacked one of his students and like almost killed him and like sliced him across the neck and stabbed him in the shoulder and all this, and he got there just in time to prevent her actually killing him, and went, "You're going to attack my students in my house, in my home?" And he gave her a dagger and said, "Show me what you did," and like pointed at one of her allies, one of her friends. And she goes, "Oh, I just kind of slashed him across the neck." And he goes, No, I didn't say tell me what you did. I said show me what you did." And she realized what he was getting at, like, if you want to survive this, I need you to attack your friend in the same way you attacked my student. And she said no. And he goes, "I wasn't asking, I'm telling you." And she goes, "Well, I'm telling you I'm not going to do it," with all this like sass. And I said, "Make a Constitution saving throw." and he cast a 7th level spell on her and did 57 damage, and she just instant death. And then he turned to one of the others and went, "How about you? You're going to give me sass?" And they were all like, "Nope, no sir." It was quite dramatic. It was extra dramatic because one of them is unknowingly carrying a phylactery around with them, and her soul did not manage to make it to the afterlife because being killed within 30 feet of this phylactery, her soul got eaten by the phylactery, which did allow me to show that they've kind of been trying to work out what this phylactery thing does for a long time now, and they've been working out a little bit, and like, I think this thing is pretty sinister. It keeps telling us to kill people, and now they've got a little bit more information about it as a group, because they're like, I was then able to describe from her perspective what she felt as her soul was being sucked in, and then what she saw once she was inside it, and all these other souls are in this phylactery with her, and to keep her in the game so that she wasn't just sitting out for the rest of the session. I like had her making checks to see if she could hear what was going on around the phylactery and if she could make out any things and stuff. So that was fun. But yes, don't fuck with powerful NPCs, or you can just be straight up killed. And the Archphaser, very powerful. You can't take them out. It would have been very dangerous for them to talk back too much to one of the Archfey. Connectedness is cool. Delighted to see Spear and stuffed Luciferic in our noodle adventure. Yeah, made sense. Like, the king went off, and like in the Apis story, you learned that the royal guard like salvaged the dragon for the king. So it only makes sense that when you go to see the king, you see the dragon too, all stuffed and up on the wall. Husk was mentioned in my private sanctum, says JMT. Husk's been mentioned in a few. You guys need to start talking to each other. You know, start having your putting all of your recaps from your individual private sanctum. You need to put them all in that shared document that somebody started, and start going through and being like, what's the story here? What's going on? All that prep and you didn't actually get to it. Yeah. Hence why I was a little disappointed in myself after the game. I was like, fuck man, I put so much work into that and I didn't pace it out properly. Oh well. I'm never too disappointed about prep going to waste, because it doesn't go to waste. Like, because it's all a connected world and everything that happens in one story is canon to the world. All of the prep that I've done is canon to the world, and if it comes up again, I've already done the prep for it. I love it when past Rob's done enough prep that I don't need to do much. The remembering is the autism, the tangents, the ADHD. Yeah. Sometimes think my brain thinks I walked through a doorway even when I didn't. Mental doorways. I don't think Vix had even heard of him before her father, the Reaper, if I recall, told her about it. Yes, her father was the Reaper and told her, as he fought her right before she killed him, that he was a direct son of the Husk, making her a quarter Archfey. Which is curious in itself, by the way, nerd. I don't know if I mentioned it at the time, but if you're a half of a particular creature in my games, you tend to be infertile. So like a half elf, half dwarf would not be able to have kids without magical assistance, magical intervention. And so for your father, the Reaper, to have been half Archfey and half something else. Curious that he was able to have you. To be fair, there's practice with the remembering stuff in the FIFA campaigns as well. Yeah, true. Going off on tangents and going back to it. What's up, Killer Koala? How's it going? Been a minute. Hey, Killer Koala's here. I wonder if all of that talk of burning down theatres might have been after Killer Koala turned up in the chat. There's at least 2 more Archfey waiting to be discovered. There are 12 Archfey total, and there are quite a few of them you haven't discovered. How many do you even know about? You definitely know about the Merry Gentleman. You've heard about the Husk now. You've seen the Wild Woman in Twitch Tales. Somebody in a private sanctum has met Redacted. Somebody else in a private sanctum didn't meet, but is a warlock of Redacted. You've heard of Redacted and Redacted for sure through private sanctums. The Jester. A few people have met or mentioned the Jester in various games. Which leaves 4 more. Who am I not thinking? Oh yeah, definitely haven't heard of her. Nobody's heard of her. That one, definitely not. That one, also not. Which leaves somebody I'm forgetting. I could go through it with my map, see if I can remember from the map alone. Curiouser and curiouser. Who am I forgetting? Oh, that's really interesting. Oh well, there's somebody else as well. So I think there's about 4 Archfey that there's been no mention of in pretty much any of my games. But the other 8 I think have had at least a mention or 2 in games before. Pick another body part to mention in the name. Does size matter? Yeah, just not big knees, please. The place where Robert, fan of being in Hawes. Is the house of Robert Hartley a DM of Crooked Pinkies where he played his flute to his lover? Yeah. This is where House of Robert Hartley GM, the man with the crooked pinkies. I'd take it. Robert Reed's Dragon's Den is definitely on YouTube, revisited from time to time. Nice. Lan is church. Lan Tisilio. The Church of Tisilio. Lan Tisilio. Gogo. Goch is red. So Gogo must have been cave, was it? Gogo cave. Goch. Red cave.
My passive perception is 24.
Alert.
I see you following me.
Oh, that'd be why you got an echo, because it's playing audibly from my computer and then it's picking up from my microphone. That's why there'd been an echo. Echo. Oops, my chat jumped again. Where am I? 2 more actually waiting to be discovered, indeed, or more. I'll have to do next year's private sanctum again, yeah. The wallflower thing, I think. You remember the source of Shrinking Violet? Probably time for a repetition of Probe Deeper. Probing deeper into holes. You asked for a definition and we one bit pong you relentlessly. Yeah, that's when it became a trolling thing, but it wasn't at first. It was something else. Byron's Scottish is okay, but he doesn't use any dialect. Yeah, like when I'm doing a Scottish accent, I'm not great at Scottish dialects. I don't know necessarily how to sound like I'm from the Highlands or Edinburgh or Glasgow or Aberdeen or whatever. I just kind of just do Scottish and hope it's okay. The way I speak is such a melting pot, doubt anyone would know where I'm from without knowing. I bet I could pick it up. That's kind of one of my party tricks. French person speaking French is from France. Got it. Simple, easy. You're trying to remember wallflower, but chat kept saying Shrinking Violet because they're similar terms. Got it. So I was trying to remember the word for wallflower, and then other people said Shrinking Violet, and then as I went, it's not Shrinking Violet, that's not the right word. And then people started one bit pinging me and the alerts were coming up, Shrinking Violet. And now every time I try to remember a word and I'm a little bit behind the chat, somebody will go, this is the word you're looking for, and then somebody else will post it at the same time, and because of delay, 5-6 people will post it, and then people just start changing from that word to Shrinking Violet. As a sort of a shorthand now for like, you've already got the word you need by this point, but I wanted to contribute. A played a totally a gnome enchantment wizard who does that detect thoughts manipulation thing. Nice. That was a good use of that thing then. I hope it worked out for you. I hope the DM gave you some mechanical benefits to having read that person's mind before choosing what phantasmal force to use. Mimic your accent and pronunciation for words that vary from American West Coast English in a way that tickles my brain. Nice. Geordie. Oh yeah, mate. Oh, it's fucking Geordie. Is Geordie like the actual demonym for them though, or is that... Because that's like a slang demonym, surely. Newcastle. Like Cockney. Cockney isn't a demonym for a Londoner, because Cockney's specifically East London in a particular region, and you have to be within audible distance of the bells or something, right? So I imagine Geordie's got some sort of similar history of like, it's not you're not technically a Geordie, mate, until you're born in this particular region, or blah blah blah. Because New Zealander doesn't really have a good demonym either. Kiwi's pretty much as good as we got. Like we don't have... we've got New Zealander, which is the demonym, so it's not the demonym. What is the word for it? It's the adjectival form of it, the New Zealandish. Like if I'm from England, I'm English. If I'm from America, I'm American. If I'm from New Zealand, I am New Zealandish. You could say I am a New Zealander, but that's a noun, not an adjective. I am New Zealandish, and Kiwi is the best we've got. It's like, if I'm from New Zealand, I am Kiwi. Kiwi. It was in the garage, but I don't think it was CC or TT. Not sure about that part of it. Grove. I just like trying out words. It's like a word tasting. Jimmy Card has a great bit about phrases that lead into accents. The one for Geordie's a poopa scooper. Kawasaki. Minor point, they're releasing 5 subclasses for Artificer, but only have 4 for the other classes. True. Good point. I hadn't thought about that. Everybody has 4 subclasses and they're giving Artificer 5, because Artificer had 4 when everybody else had like 8 at least. Kenda, that's the ones, thank you. Kenda. I knew it was a K. I couldn't get Kenku out of my mind. Quick, he's catching up. Good, because it's 11:30 and I should go to bed soon. I haven't eaten my dinner yet, remember? My brother came in at the start of this stream and said, hey, you want food? And I was like, That was my private sanctums as Killer Koala. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. You were one of the first private sanctums that I did. I think you were the number 2. I think you were in my 2nd private sanctum ever. And your character, being like an investigator that had been framed for exploding a theatre, and you were from the Feywild and all of this other stuff. Like, you were one of the impetuses for a lot of what is going on in the Archfey bullshit story. I remember... because you were a Gen Con private sanctum, I believe. No, Gary Con. No, Gary Con? Was it a Gary Con private? Wherever it was, I was in a hotel, and I remember the night before the thing, I was like, I had all of the pieces together, but it was Archphase, and I was like, I know that what I'm about to give this private sanctum group. It was Lake Geneva because we played at Gary Gygax's house, didn't we? I remember I was like, whatever this story's going to be, I haven't got it yet, and it was like the night before, and it was quite late at night, and I was like, it's so close to fucking coming to me though. It's like I can see why people used to talk about like muses and like the story just like, or like the art flows into you, or the music like doesn't seem like it's come from you, because I'd looked at the characters that I'd been given, I'd looked at all the backstories, I'd thought about them, and I'd come up with like something that was going on, but I was like, there's some sort of diplomatic bullshit, like layer upon layer of like deception happening between the Archfey, and this Archfey wants this thing but can't just do it directly because that's not how Fey work, and they would get called out by the council of Archfey if they did that, so they have to like frame somebody, but they also can't just frame them because the Archfey is smart enough to work out that they're probably been framed, so they have to like frame somebody for framing that person, and there's like double bluffs and triple bluffs happening, and it has to make it look like the person being framed is the one trying to do the framing, and the reason for them framed, so they have to set up the fact that there's a motive between them, and they have to plan that all so that they can get this like very minor thing, and it felt so deliciously Archfey to just be like,
their plans last for 10,000 years because they just keep going, and the time means nothing to them, and they know all these other Archfey Council members for thousands of years now, and they know how each of them's going to respond if this one is accused of this sort of a behaviour, then they're going to act in this way, which is going to make this other one overreact to that, and I had all of these things, and I was like, I'm not sure what the pieces are yet. And I just left the hotel room. I was like, I need to go for a walk. And I just paced along the length. And I could probably map out the Lake Geneva hotel that I was staying at, like from memory now, because I walked the length of it on my floor. And then I walked down the steps, and I walked back through the other floor. And then I walked all the way up to like the floor above mine. And I walked back and forth. And I went down steps and up steps. And I was just walking and thinking through and being like, how does this connect? And then by the time I got back to my hotel room, like an hour or 2 hours later or something, I was like, I've got it. I know what the story is behind the scenes, what's going on and who wants what and what they're trying to do. Then I had to go, right, which teeny element of this am I going to hint at in Killer Koala's game tomorrow? Like they're going to learn just this little bit. And that's what started it off. And then I was like, cool. And then because I'd done all of that work for your campaign, like when 2 sessions later, I had the private sanctum in San Francisco the next day or the day after or something, as I was flying back towards New Zealand. Then later on that year, a few months later, I had started my 2 months of travel and started my private sanctums in Gen Con. And every time after that somebody was introducing like, oh, I'm playing an Archfey Warlock, or I'm playing this, or I'm a Druid but I'm an Eladrin from the Feywild or whatever, and there was always elements of me of my ability to go, okay, cool, how am I going to try and give them like a little puzzle piece of what's going on, all of this shit that's going on with the Archfey and the Council and everything. Try and give everybody just a little hint of something that's going on, which is why so many of the stories revolved around elements of the Husk's involvement or indications that the Husk was being involved in some way, because it made everybody go, point at the Husk, there's stories that are overlapping. But then in Fancy's game in the game that Fancy was in on Monday this gone, they finally were in a position where enough other things had happened pointing at the Husk that someone very powerful had gotten wind of that and went, we really need to investigate this properly. It seems like there's something going on here that's leaking over into the mortal planes. And so they put a team together and sent Fancy and their team, because Fancy was playing the person who'd kind of was hiring the rest of the adventurers, and was giving Fancy the quest of like, you hire some adventurers and go and investigate this thing in the Feywild. And they went and confronted the Husk, for want of a better word. And through doing so, they learned like the next step up in this big story of what's happening. And the Husk at the end of that session said, interesting, why they learned that someone, so the Husk sort of told them, I'm involved in some of those things and not others. Like I am actually behind some of the things that you've heard I'm behind, but other things I'm being framed for, sort of thing. And then they went, fuck off, and left. And then the person who worked for the Husk, who was like leading them out, went, really wish you hadn't asked about that, because you're not meant to know that shit yet, and so I have to kill you now. And then they tried to kill them, they sort of betrayed them, they had to fight this geezer, and then they killed them. And I was like, haha, thank goodness that you killed that person, because they were terrified of being interrogated. They realised that they were going to lose that fight, they were about to kill themselves, like a spy with the what do they call that poison that they take? Arsenic. It's like a spy with the arsenic tablet, or the like fake tooth or whatever. The spy, the spy who had infiltrated the Husk's lair was going to do that, but they didn't need to because they killed them on the next round. But I happened to tell them that, and they went, well, I've got Revivify. And so they brought this geezer back, and the Husk got involved and was like, who the fuck are you working for? And so they learned a little bit more of the story. This is very cool. But I'm glad that you gave me that backstory that you gave me, Killer Koala, because it meant that it sort of was a big part of inspiring all of what's going on in the first place. And I'm very excited for the more of it that gets uncovered, the more of it that you learn about. Pesky fairies started burning the tent. Yep. My 2-person level 20 group got wiped by an archfey. Yes, you did. Yes, you did indeed. You were the one who was introduced first to the jester. The jester was some. I think that was the first time anybody had met the jester. Scribbles notes: do not mouth off to a necromancer. Do appreciate how you put players in their place. It encourages other DMs to be more aggressive and have leadership skills. I make a point of like not. I don't do it just to be an ass though. Like I paused after that scene where the fairy character died in my game yesterday. She was playing a fairy, which meant it was even more brutal because he could like literally hold her in one hand and just like cast this 7th level spell on her, kill her, and then just like discarded her body off to the side. Anybody else got a problem? Kind of thing. It's very brutal. It also means that they can carry her body around until they can find some way of trying to resurrect her. But I did, after that scene was done, I did pause and say like, hey, out of character, is everybody okay with what just happened? I talked to the person who just died and said, are you okay with that? And she's like, absolutely. Like my character, I figured my character would be destined to die sometime because she was a little bitch. Like she wouldn't stop mouthing off to people. She was playing like a 19-year-old or like the equivalent in fairy years. Like somebody who was like, I know better than you, mom. And her backstory was that she came from like a noble family and ran away to like rebel. And so she didn't really know that if you talk back to the wrong person in the real world, that people who don't work for your family. She was like, oh no, I don't have the power out here. And so she was like, yeah, no, it absolutely makes sense that he would have killed me. The common document is pinned. Yep, you can there is a document for all the Private Sanctum folk. There is a document that somebody started with all of the room for all of the Private Sanctum's notes to be put, so you can read back. Love-hate relationship that you have with Past Rob. Sometimes the asshole he's a real prick to me, and sometimes he does something I'm like, oh, thank fuck for that. Thank you, Past Rob. Fancy knows about redacted, and thingy. Didn't we see all the archface sort of as Apis was going through the trials to get into the Mary Gentleman's house? There's a tree battle of all of them. Were all of them represented there? I don't know if all of them were. They may have all been. I can't remember. Oh yeah, you saw 7 in the council meet. Yes, you did meet the Fruity Fellow then. Okay, so Fruity Fellow is one of those redacted. There is an archfey called the Fruity Fellow, and Felagund has met them in a council meeting. I can't remember which other ones were in the council meeting. Do you? The Fruity Fellows are really fun archfey. I hope you guys meet them in like a Twitch Tales or something one day. Alright, I really should start trying to catch up a little bit because it's nearly midnight and I do have to go get some food before going to sleep. My group needs to chat again to get our notes together. Yeah. Were all mentioned at the meal. They were all mentioned at the meal with the wild woman. She mentioned all of them? I mean, you might be right. I don't remember her mentioning every single one of them. I think she went through a few of them and went, so-and-so will act like this and so-and-so will act like that. Also, every archfey, much like the Merry Gentleman, every archfey has a lot of names, like half a dozen at least. The Merry Gentleman, I wrote out his the other day. I copied it across from one document to another and I realised that he has probably about 30 different names on his list. The Merry Gentleman has a lot of names. That I've come up with for very like things that various different cultures name him, because he like turns up on this planet, on this continent and this continent and stuff, and so he's got names that sound like Chinese or names that sound like they're Hindi or something, because obviously when he turns up in their cultures and like presents himself differently, they know him as that name or that character or whatever. It's very fun coming up with the different names for them. And so there's a chance that the names that the wild woman used at dinner might have been one of their non-official names. And of course each of them has a real name, a true name that you guys don't know. I don't think anybody knows any of my archfey's true names except for me. In fact, that's one of the things that I do want to expand with my world building. It's one of the reasons that I started hankering to do a little bit more world building was when I was doing my prep for the Private Sanctum and I was coming up with all this stuff about Archfey and trying to refresh my memory about all of the plot that was going on behind the scenes. I realised that there was some parts of some of the Archfey that I hadn't fleshed out, like I haven't given them all a true name, or like thought about what their palace looks like where do they live and stuff, or who their right-hand man is, sort of thing, because every one of them has, every one of the Archfey has a right-hand man, for want of a better word. Every one of them has a court that has a particular name, and people and like significant folk within that court. Every one of them owns a piece of land, or rules over a piece of land in the Feywild. Every one of them has a true name and all this other stuff, and like appearances that they tend to gravitate towards, and all this. So I want to flesh out all of those things for each of my Archfey. Officially late for my own stream. See you all later. No worries, Nightwitch. See you later. Didn't you go through all? Didn't you go through them all when the Merry Gentleman had to guess how everyone in the council had voted? I might have, and if you have heard of them all, then let me know, and I'm happy to be corrected there. I just had in mind that there was a couple that they didn't mention. In particular, there's one that I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have mentioned in character for the Merry Gentleman or the Wild Woman, but I could be mistaken. That was past Rob making decisions. Sometimes he makes bad choices. By the way, I did take game notes of the Play With Me game that we had in Hamilton, but they were from my own memories, so from my character's perspective. But if you need player notes from that, I have them still. That's a really good point, Meg, because I've kind of been thinking about Private Sanctums, but the Play With Me also takes, all of the Play With Me redemptions do take place in my world of Rin as well, and are canonical, so it would be good to get the notes from the Play With Me's. Just say 11, pure Glasgow, 11. I don't see people chatting, so I think my signal's messed up. Don't know if my messages are going through. They are, but I was well behind the chat. If you want to come back to North America, I'll definitely do a Private Sanctum. Would travel to Canada for it. Thank you for letting me know. I will keep that in mind. I probably will be travelling to Canada at some point next year. Just couldn't really make it work this year. Bet you couldn't work out the country I'm from unless I've told you already. England. Geordie's similar to Scouse. Yeah, because Liverpudlian is the official demonym for Liverpool, but Scouse is like an unofficial slang one for it. And I would have thought that Geordie was the same, like Newcastelian or something. Newcastellan. Newcastlandrian. Robert, there's more Private Sanctums in Australia. Well, watch this space, because I am going to PAX Australia this year, and I will be doing a Private Sanctum in Melbourne before PAX. It will be announced soon-ish on my Patreon and YouTube members. I'd like to go to one. Sadly, I'll be busy the week before PAX. Bugger bullet. I will be doing Private Sanctums whenever I travel, usually. Koala and I were in that one. Oh, JMT, yes, that was one that you went to too. So yes, you were also at the conception of a lot of this ongoing story. I went to both GaryCon and Gen Con. Yes, you did. The moment when the creative flow kicks in is so delicious. Yeah, it's pretty good. Out of curiosity, I know you check your Patreon message frequently. How often might you check your Discord messages? Pretty frequently, if I get them. I don't tend to get messages from folk that I'm not already like friends with on Discord. I think there's like a setting or something that's protecting me from strangers or randos or whatever. But I check my Discord messages pretty frequently. I get a lot of them every day, even from friends and stuff. So some of them just go unanswered. Especially when I'm travelling. Once this arc is done, someone needs to write it into a short or long story. Yeah, one day I might actually publish a novel of all of this, a novella or something.
I always do really good brainstorming for writing, going on walks, gets a lot of ideas flowing. Yeah, I found that walking is pretty useful for it. I used to walk Harvey while I was thinking of ideas. I'd like work on my like prep for a session, like on the document at my computer for hours pretty intensively, going through stuff, cross-referencing, taking notes of things to remember, like little elements from somebody's story that I go, oh, I like that. And I'd go down into the questions section and be like, answer this question, like why were they, why did this happen or something? Come up with an answer for that, because that's an interesting plot. And I'd work on that stuff, and I'd go, here are all the building pieces. I've now arranged all of my... It's kind of like if you're building a house. I go in and I do the foundations, and I order all of the timber and the concrete and the whatever else and the rebar, and I chuck it all on the building site, and then I go, right, the fuck am I going to do with this? And then I go for a walk or a drive, or like just let it percolate while I'm doing something else that occupies my hands, like doing the dishes or doing the laundry or whatever. And that's when my brain is going, what can I make out of these things that's actually interesting? And it's starting to like write blueprints for the house. And not a great analogy, because normally you would put blueprints together before you come up with the house, the pieces that you need for the house. But I just kind of order all the junk and chuck it all together and then go, there's something I can make out of this. And usually there is like an aha kind of moment where it starts to fit together, and then things start to flow, and I go, oh shit, yeah, and if I just order one more of these things from this, and then I'll cross-reference to somebody else's sanctum, and I'll go, what was that guy called? Sweet, yeah, he would make sense over here, and this would make sense. And suddenly it just starts snowballing, and before I know it, I've got a story, or I've got the outlines of the house. I've built the house, but it still needs the plastering and the finishing touches, the skirting boards and stuff, and hanging the doors. And that's when the players get involved. I turn up with the majority of the house done, and then I go, make the choices. Do the things that happen in the game, and you went this way and you went that way and you chose to sass that guy, and okay, interesting. And that's you guys putting the wallpaper up and like making it into an actual house. Not the worst analogy. Fancying a fuck about hat. Yeah. Let's see if I can get to a private sanctum in the future. Yeah. The random diamond was clutch. Yes, it was, yeah. I'd totally love a whole stream recapping every private sanctum in order. Maybe. I love that all of our attacks basically made loud noises. Yeah, this guy... So this the Husker's like, fuck off out of my land. You'd be lucky that I don't kill you kind of thing. My assistant will see you out. And he left, and his assistant saw them out, like across the like sand dunes and shit, to be like, okay, we're far enough away now that I can turn on you and attack you and kill you because you know too much, sort of thing. And then every one of their attacks was like thunder damage, thunder damage, thunder damage. And it was like boom, boom, boom. And I was like, oh, the Husk's going to hear that something's going down. Definitely add my notes from the private sanctum of the document. Clearly says 2024, so the autism makes it impossible to add anything for 2025. Yeah, we need to change that document to just be like private sanctum information. Alright. Doopy-doopy-doo. Deliberately didn't let a character know that we were there, and then used thunder damage and tried to run anywhere straight away. Yeah. Yeah. You so in the first of the private sanctums of York this time, they were like sneaking into a thieves guild essentially, and they knew that the person they were looking for was one of their characters' sister, and she like bad relations, no love lost kind of sister, and she was like leading the organization, and they went down into this like second level knowing that the sister was like on the next level down, and one of the guys, they tried deceiving the way in and being like, oh, she allowed us to be here, and they didn't do so well with the check, so the second in command, as it were, went, oh, is that so? I'll just check with her then, and like got out the pocket a sending coin, a sending stone to like straight up talk to her, and they were like, no, and they fucking kicked off a fight and like managed to kill her before she sent the message and blah blah blah. And they went through all this effort to like, don't let her know that we're here so that we can get the surprise on her, and then we're like, thunder damage, thunder damage, thunder damage. It's like, she's below you. She's one floor below. She's going to hear all this and come up anyway, which she did. Very funny. We did so good at being sneaky until that last room. Yes. Yes, you did. I feel called out about the thunder damage. It's not my fault. Rob knows the true names of all the Archfey. Must be a secret sauce. That's the fun thing. I actually don't. The group from Monday has plans for their fake Feywild names. Nice. He also shared a screen of a list of all the Archfey when preparing the first Twitch Tales live. You didn't go into them all, but we saw at least one name each for the 12. Okay, there you go then. You do know the 12. So I don't mind telling you a few of them then, the ones that are redacted. There's the Fruity Fellow. He's a fun one. There's the Sporian. He's a fun one. Oh, no, wait, that is the Sporian. That was just a different name for him. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. No, yes, it's a different guy. The Sporian. I was confusing two of them together. Autumn's Scent. Autumn's Scent and the Sporian. I was chucking them together. That's the one that I couldn't think of before. Fruity Fellow, Sporian, Autumn's Scent, Wild Woman, Merry Gentleman, the Husk, the Jester, the Cold Lady, Blue Tune, the Deep Below. Who have I not said this time? Who did I miss this time that I had before? I said the Husk, didn't I? I can't remember who I said. And then the last one is just the Unknown. And she's the one that I was thinking. I don't know the Merry Gentleman or the Wild Woman would have mentioned the Unknown. Maybe she did. But she's a really fun one. I was telling AJ about the Unknown recently, and she's like, "Damn, she sounds fun." She's different. All the Archfey are very different. I made a point of like making them feel different, make them feel unique to each other, make them feel like they've all got a niche. But even with that in mind, the Unknown is different. All the rest of the council feel weird about the Unknown, which makes it very fun. I said county, numpty. What county are you from? Oh fuck! I can narrow it down to north and south, but I can't. I don't know enough about counties of England dialects to be able to tell. No, it's better than north and south. I can generally go sort of northeast, northwest, Midlands, southwest, southeast kind of area. I can generally get that level of detail when I'm listening to a British or English, I should say, accent. What do you use for note taking? Every fucking thing. That's part of the problem. I'm currently hiring a friend of mine. Why am I saying a friend of mine? You know her. Tals, Fully Blue, Grid, aka all of the other things. Talia's. I'm asking her to go through some of my note documents and just like take stuff from one and put it in another, just like consolidate them all. Because I use Legend Keeper, I use World Anvil, I use Word documents, I use OneNote, or have used in the past. I've used Apple Numbers and Apple Pages, Excel spreadsheets, physical notes like pen and paper, notes on my phone. They're just fucking all over the place. There's like several years of my home games that I don't know where the notes are from it, because I know I was taking notes and I can't find them in any of the aforementioned things. And I'm like, where the fuck did I put those notes? What was I doing for them? They must exist somewhere, hopefully. I was kicking myself when I realised I missed you at Gen Con last year. I live in Indy, so I go every year. I hadn't discovered you in time last year. Bugger. Oh well, there'll be time again at some point. Hopefully. Just have a hard time figuring out how far away something is in feet. I heard 300 feet away, that's like 3 meters. Here's my quick rule of thumb for feet to meters. Feeters. Divide by 10 times by 3. So 300 feet divided by 10 is 30, times by 3 is 90. 300 feet is 90 meters. Slightly harder to do the other way around, because if it's not divisible by 3, it makes it a little bit difficult. You go 220 meters. How far is that? 73. So divide by 3, 73, times by 10, 730. 730 feet. I love that you do these charisma checks. Really appreciate it. Thank you. I'm glad that I do them too. Once a month, just like time for chatting and connecting and whatever. People can ask me questions. Shouldn't you be eating and sleeping, you goob? I should, yes, it's nearly midnight. Imagine their true names are like John and Joe. Dave the Archfey. Billy Bob the Archfey. Fred the Archfey. Yeah. Alright, seems like I caught up. Perfect timing. Thank you for shutting up, everybody. Thank you for shutting up long enough that I can catch up. Quick, send my messages. We can't let him leave. Too late, Bullet. Too late, Bullet. I gotta go. I gotta go get some food and then sleeps. Question: been running a mini campaign in a Feyralam? What? Alright, thanks for being here, everybody. Thanks for being patrons and or YouTube members. I really appreciate the support. I tell stories for a living, so I got a lot of different avenues where my revenue comes from, but Patreon is a huge chunk of that. So thank you very much for doing that. I hope that you enjoy the perks that you get. One of which is the merchandise that you get from previous anniversary merch that you get access to it. So if you want to check out this year's anniversary merch, which is available for another week or so, it's your last chance to get them. If you want to check those out in my merch store, because you're patrons, you will also get access to the previous year's merch as well. So go and check that out. And I will see you in the next stream at some point. Bye!